before the college entrance exam. My childhood sweetheart insisted on writing the name of his celebrity crush on everyone's exam admission card to support her. I tried my best to stop him. Xiaoyu, are you really that jealous of Qinglu that you'd even block us from helping her? Qianlin Fang shouted at me, clutching the class's admission cards. Other classmates immediately jumped in to accuse me as well. Come on, Qinglu's come this far with so much effort. What's wrong with giving her a little help? All right. What a bunch of clueless morons. They're throwing away their futures for someone who doesn't even matter. If you don't want it, I still do. 1. Qianlin Fang's voice cut through the noisy chatter in the classroom like a sharp knife. There was a noticeable tremble in his voice, not from nervousness, but from barely contained anger. He stood at the podium, clutching a stack of exam admission tickets in his hand. All eyes in the room were fixed on me. Those gazes felt like countless fine needles pricking densely into my back, filled with disgust, confusion, mockery, and even gleeful schadenfreude. An air of excitement hung in the classroom, as if a trial meant for me was about to begin. Qinglu stood beside Qianlin Fang, lowering her head just enough to seem appropriately modest. Her eyes were slightly red, her eyelashes fluttering gently, giving the impression of having suffered a great injustice. Yet, she couldn't quite hide the faint, mischievous smile, tugging at the corners of her mouth. I just don't think this is the right thing to do, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. The college entrance exam admission ticket is a crucial document. Writing anything random on it could mess up the exam. Mess up the exam? Qianlin Fang sneered, turning to the rest of the class with a shrug. Did you all hear that? Xiaoyu says helping Qinglu write her name on the form will ruin the exam. The classroom erupted in a burst of raucous laughter. Some pounded their desks, others whistled, and a few even let out exaggerated gasps of fig-net astonishment. Even the usually quiet students in the back rows wore mocking smirks, as if abstaining from this collective rivalry would be a sin. Xinglu's best friend, Wang Shua, shot up from her seat. Her newly dyed pink hair was glaringly bright under the sunlight, like a blazing flame. Xiaoyu, she drawled, her voice dripping with faint surprise. Have you lost your mind from studying too much? It's just writing a name. What's the big deal? She twirled a strand of her hair around her finger as she spoke, her eyes brimming with disdain. Exactly, the P monitor cut in gruffly, his burly frame nearly blocking half the aisle. Qinglu finally made it to the star of tomorrow finals. Shouldn't we, as her classmates, support her? Do you have any idea how late she practices dancing every night? I looked around, and every young face was etched with fervor and blind devotion. Some had already eagerly scrolled, "Go sharing Lu," on their exam admission tickets, while others were holding up their phones to capture the scene. Qinglu sat in the center of the classroom like a queen receiving homage, her head slightly bowed, a faint elusive smile playing at the corner of her lips. She was wearing elaborate stage makeup today, making her stand out starkly among the crowd of students in their school uniforms. I get that you want to support her. I took a deep breath, my nails unconsciously digging into my palms. But why write it on the admission ticket? You could post on Weibo, share it on Moments, or even show up to cheer her on in person. This is the college entrance exam, not Siowa. Qianlin Fang suddenly cut in, his voice dropping sharply with a condescending kind of pity. Do you think Qinglu has stolen my attention from you? But as he said it, his gaze softened as he looked at Qinglu. The whole class immediately erupted in a suggestive chorus of, "Oh," with some starting to heckle, others whistling, and a few even loudly declaring, "So that's how it is." Qinglu raised her head at the perfect moment, her eyes gleaming with triumph. She playfully pushed Qianlin Fang, finding shyness, but the gesture only sparked even more teasing. I didn't. I protested, but my voice was drowned out by the rising clamor. The smiling faces before me contorted and warped, transforming into a gallery of grotesque masks. Just admit it, Xiaoyu, Qianlin Fang said, stepping down from the podium. He stopped in front of me and leaned in slightly, the familiar scent of his lemon-scented body wash, which usually comforted me, now turned my stomach. You've had a crush on me since elementary school, haven't you? You're jealous now that you see me getting close to Qinglu. I could clearly see the contempt flashing in his eyes. The classroom was deathly quiet, everyone holding their breath, waiting to see my reaction. 3. I just want my admission ticket back. I didn't answer his pointless question. I don't care what you're doing, but don't touch my stuff. What do you mean your stuff? Wang Hao suddenly stood up from the back row, his chair legs scraping against the floor with a piercing screech. He rushed towards me in a few quick strides, his spittle practically hitting my face. This was a collective decision by the whole class. Jinglu needs fan support for Star of Tomorrow, and writing her name on our exam permits is our way of voting for her. A wave of echoing agreement rose and fell throughout the classroom, threatening to drown me. I could hardly believe my ears. Are you all insane? These are the National College entrance exam permits. If you get caught, you're all finished. Xiaoyu, you're being incredibly selfish, the class monitor said, adjusting his glasses. The cold glint reflected off the lenses obscured his eyes. Xinglu finally made it to the finals. This is just a small thing we can do for her. Just place your exam. Admission ticket face down during the test. Won't you? The proctors aren't going to check each one individually. Nearly everyone was nodding in agreement. Xinglu sat at her desk, dabbing the corner of her eye gently with a tissue. But the smug smile at the corner of her mouth was impossible to hide. She was the campus beauty, and a somewhat famous child star, extremely popular among her classmates. Meanwhile, I was just a bookworm, and because Xinglu kept crying in front of everyone that I bullied her, everyone started to see me as a spoiled, an arrogant rich girl in their eyes. I was always the odd one out who didn't fit in. This isn't a small matter. I raised my voice. Do you even realize this is illegal? Cheating on the college entrance exam carries legal consequences. What if we get caught? What do you mean? Just in case. Shen Linfang slammed his hand on the table, his voice so loud it made my eardrums ache. Xiaoyu, you just can't stand seeing Qingla doing well ever. Since she came back, you've been like this, always setting yourself against her. How ridiculous. It was clearly Qinglu who started isolating me after transferring back. Just because Chen Linfang and I are close, and now it's my fault. That's enough, he suddenly shouted, his voice echoing through the classroom. I've had enough of your condescending attitude. Xingla's been working so hard for her dreams. What's wrong with us classmates giving her a hand? Are you the only one who's noble? The only one who's sensible? For I lunged forward to snatch them, my fingertips just about to brush the stack of exam permits when Chen Linfang suddenly raised his arm high. The documents swayed in his grasp like a trophy. Want them? A cruel smirk curled at the corner of his mouth, his voice deliberately drawn out. Get on your knees and beg. The entire class erupted in a harsh, mocking roar of laughter. I'd advise you to stop scheming. Nothing you do will make a difference. Chen Linfo looked down at me from his superior position, his tone dripping with condescending arrogance. It's written in black and white on the admission ticket. My voice rang out clearly in the classroom. Any alteration or marking will be considered cheating, and all scores will be invalidated. The words hit like a bucket of ice water. Hesitation flickered across a few classmates' faces. One nervously rubbed their fingers together. Is that true? Then doesn't that mean? The classroom fell abruptly silent. Every gaze shifted to Chen Linfeng, and the air grew thick with restless agitation. Shaking's delicately made-up face instantly lost its color, turning several shades paler. Her eyes darted around. Then she suddenly clapped a hand over her mouth and let out a sob. Yeah. She hiccuped, tears welling up in her eyes. You come from such a privileged background. Your family's already laid out a smooth path for you. But me, she sniffled, her voice trembling just right. I've studied my hardest since childhood, and only through sheer effort did I manage to get where I am today. Her gaze swept over everyone present, her voice soft yet deeply provocative. Brother Lin Fang's family is the wealthiest in Jiang City. Even if there's a problem with the exam, his father can fix it with a single word. Yeah, you can rely on your family. So why would you block someone else's path? That statement was like opening Pandora's box. I watched helplessly as my classmates' eyes lit up one by one, flickering with the flames of greed. They began whispering amongst themselves, rubbing their hands together in excitement, already fantasizing about a bright future. That's right, Fang's father is the richest man in Jiang City. Does that mean we can just waltz right into university? That's fantastic. Qinglu, we can still be desk mates. Amidst the rising and falling cheers, Xinglu allowed a faint, smug smile to curl the corner of her lips, a fleeting expression that vanished in an instant. Chen Lifang's furrowed brow gradually relaxed under her gaze, eventually melting into an expression of haughty pride. He straightened his back and swept his eyes around the classroom like a proud peacock. "Don't worry, everyone," he shouted, waving his admission ticket high like a banner of victory. "The Qin family always keeps its word. Well, make sure you all get into the best university in Jiang City." After that, he turned to me, his eyes fierce as if he wanted to gouge a hole right through me. "Xiao Yu Qinglu may not have had your lucky breaks, but she works 100 times harder than you." He took a step forward, his voice dripping with malice. "You're just jealous of her. You're scared people will say you can't even compare to the daughter of a housemaid." Xinglu lowered her head at just the right moment, her shoulders trembling slightly like a delicate white flower swaying in the breeze. But I knew that beneath those downcast eyelids lay a pair of eyes brimming with calculation. I nearly laughed out loud. These fools are outrageously stupid and brazenly greedy. They were like a pack of sharks smelling blood, rushing headlong toward that illusory promise, having lost even the most basic sense of judgment. As for Xinglu, I coldly watched the so-called friend who grew up with me. Her mother was indeed our family's maid, but we never treated her unfairly in the slightest. Her father even paid for her to attend the best art school. And every year my mother would prepare a birthday gift for her, just like the one she gave me. Lin Feng Xinglu and I truly grew up together. When we were kids, Xinglu's grades were just average. Lin Feng always thought she was a bit slow, and wouldn't even give her the time of day. Back then, he was always trailing behind me like a shadow I couldn't shake. The year we graduated from elementary school, Xinglu was spotted by a director by chance, and landed a small role. After that, she started attending art school in junior high. When we met again in high school, Xinglu seemed like a different person. She could dance, play the piano, and every glance and expression was laced with careful calculation. Even her smile seemed to have been measured with a ruler for its perfect curve. As for Lin Feng, watching him now, utterly infatuated with Xinglu, made my stomach turn. He was like a tame dog. A single look from Xinglu was enough to make him grovel and beg for her favor. How ironic! That once proud young man had now fallen to such a state. I know exactly what Xinglu wants. She's trying to climb over my back to get ahead, taking everything that belongs to me. My friends, my childhood sweetheart. But I don't care. These shallow things were never what I truly valued in the first place. 6. I'm going to attend a university in Beijing. I said each word slowly and clearly, staring straight into Chen Linfang's eyes. The classroom fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. With all your supposed clout, Mr. Chen, can you even get me into Beijing University? If you can, I'll let you write it. If not, just give me back my admission ticket. The words exploded in the classroom like a bomb. No one had expected me to make such a demand. A few classmates gaped in disbelief. Jing University is one of the top institutions in the country. Even the richest man in Jiang City couldn't reach that far. This was a blatant provocation, an open challenge to Chen Lifeng's authority. Chen Linfeng's face instantly darkened. He gripped my admission ticket so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "Saiwa," he said through gritted teeth, his voice a low, strained hiss. "Xinglu and I have both decided to stay at Jiang University. If you insist on running off to Beijing all by yourself, don't come crying to us when you're lonely and miserable." I let out a cold, derisive laugh, the condescending tone of his, as if I couldn't possibly survive without them. And besides, stay at Jiangda University. How dare he even suggest that? Does he think Jiangda is some family business of the Chens that he can just waltz into whenever he pleases? The National College Entrance Exam is a nationwide event. No one can tamper with it. How laughable! The world they perceive as nothing but a pathetic little puddle. Brother Lin Feng Xinglu chimed in at the right moment, her slender fingers lightly resting on Chen Linfeng's arm. Her voice was as soft as cotton candy. Yet when she heard, "I'm not staying in Jiang City," the corner of her mouth twitched upward almost imperceptibly. Since Yaya doesn't want to stay with us, just give her the admission ticket back. Her eyes, however, clearly seemed to say, look, it was her who chose to leave us. 7. But Chen Linfeng still wasn't willing to let go. He glared down at me, his eyes burning with stubborn fury. Chen Linfeng, I said, meeting his gaze directly as the class monitor. You are responsible for this. Brother Linfeng. Don't be angry. Xinglu suddenly grabbed Chen Linfeng's sleeve. Yaya just doesn't quite understand the struggles of us ordinary people. She lowered her eyelids, her thick lashes casting a shadow on her face, yet unable to conceal the smug curve at the corner of her mouth. The words hit Chen Linfeng like a slap in the face. He remembered how every time he went home, his parents would compare him to Xiao, and how every time he chased after her, she would brush him off. When he chose to be with Xinglu, Xiaoyu acted like it didn't matter to her. Of course, I'll take responsibility, he almost shouted. He hated how Xiaoyu always acted like a spoiled princess who looked down on everyone. I just want my admission ticket back, I said coldly. You can ruin your own college entrance exams if you want, but don't drag me into it. Ruining the Gao. Chen Linfeng let out an exaggerated laugh, throwing his head back as if he just heard the funniest joke in the world. His laughter dripped with deliberate mockery. You think scribbling a name can ruin the Gao? Xiaoyu, have you been studying yourself into a frenzy? He suddenly stopped laughing, his expression turning vicious. He pulled my admission ticket from the stack, and right in front of me, wrote Going Lu in bold red ink. After finishing, he held my ticket high above his head, spinning around like he was displaying a trophy. See this? I wrote it. So what is the sky going to fall? The classroom erupted in applause and whistles. Some even stood up cheering as if Chen Linfeng had just pulled off some incredible heroic feat. My gaze fell on the exam admission ticket. Next to my photo, the ink was still wet, the bright red characters glaring like blood. Chen Linfeng. My voice was so low it was almost inaudible. Do you have any idea how many sleepless nights I've pulled over the past 3 years for this exam? He was taken aback for a moment, a flicker of hesitation flashing in his eyes. But when Xinglu gently tugged at the hem of his shirt, he quickly regained that condescending expression. So what is that? Why you're trying to stop everyone from supporting Xinglu? He deliberately raised his voice so the whole class could hear. Xiaoyu, you're being so selfish. Looking at his contorted face, I suddenly found the whole situation utterly absurd. Fine, if you're set on doing this, then good luck to you. Hope you're still smiling on exam day 8. He tossed the exam admission slip with his name on it. The flimsy paper traced an arc through the air before landing at my feet. The 4 characters were a glaring, ugly scar of red against the pristine white of the page. I looked up and met Chen Linfeng's gaze, his eyes holding a hint of a mocking smile. He had one hand in his pocket, idly twirling a ballpoint pen in the other. But this time, you did contribute something for Xinglu, he drawled, dragging out the words with disdain as his eyes swept over me. I suppose I could consider agreeing to have dinner with you after the exam. A faint smirk curled at the corner of his lips, as if it were the greatest favor he could ever bestow. The classroom instantly erupted into chatter. Some girls covered their mouths, whispering behind their hands, while the guys blew whistles. Exactly. Xiaowa, just do a small favor, and you get to have dinner with your childhood sweetheart. What a steal. Wang Shi fluttered over like a colorful butterfly, affectionately hooking her arm through Xinglu's, and smirking with playful innuendo. You don't even get this chance when you're trailing after Linfeng all the time. Li Ming leaned against the desk, his taunt sparking a wave of laughter. Xinglu stood in the middle of the crowd, her slender fingers nervously twisting at the edge of her dress. She put on light makeup today, a hint of rosy pink smudged at the outer corners of her eyes, and now the faint redness around them made her look even more heartbreakingly lovely. It's just writing a name when I become a movie star someday. This will be something tons of people would kill for. Her voice was as soft as a feather, yet it plucked at the heartstrings of everyone with uncanny precision. Several boys unconsciously straightened their backs, looking as if they were ready to go through fire and water for their goddess. How utterly ridiculous. I surveyed these bewitched classmates of mine, a scornful smirk curling at the corner of my mouth. My gaze eventually settled on Linfeng. who was staring at Xinglu with intense focus. His eyes, so tender they could have dripped with affection. Completely different from the contempt he just shown me. Who can predict the future? Even if Xinglu does become a top actress someday, do you really think she'll remember this bunch of siphons today? 9. This opportunity is so rare. I said slowly, each word deliberate, my eyes sweeping over the eager faces of everyone around me. If you want it, go ahead, and take it. I rolled my eyes so hard that my eye sockets ached. Is this love-struck brain in its terminal stage or what? With the college entrance exams right around the corner, what's with all this melodramatic acting? Xinglu's tears fell at just the right moment, glistening like sparkling diamonds in the sunlight. Lin Fang's expression instantly darkened. He strode over and grabbed my wrist. Xiaoyu, don't be so ungrateful. His grip was incredibly strong, and I felt the sharp, piercing pain shoot through the bones in my wrist. Young Master Chun, I said through gritted teeth, enunciating each word, your romantic history could fill a book titled On the Self-Cultivation of AS. Bache-du-me a favor, and don't write me into the bonus chapters. I held up my admission ticket, now defaced with writing. You've damaged my exam permit. I'm keeping this as evidence, and I will be filing a police report after the test. Xinglu suddenly reached out from behind Chen Lin Foam, and her manicured nails scraped against my skin, causing a stinging pain. Yeah. Are we best friends? Just think of it as a graduation gift for me. She tilted her head slightly as she spoke, the pearl earrings at her earlobes swaying gently, looking utterly innocent. Slap! I shook off her hand. Shakenless expression froze instantly. Shakingly, I stared at her perfectly made-up face. The way you're trying to climb over others is just like those knockoff lipsticks from the night market. $10 for 3. I paused for a beat, watching her face twist in disgust. Cheap, and fades fast. Using my future as your gift. How shameless can you get? Chen Linfang suddenly lunged forward and yanked Shikinglu behind him. Xiaoyu's shout lit up every motion sensor light in the hallway, drawing curious glances even from the next classroom. Didn't your parents teach you how to behave? 10 Chen Linfang. I slowly raised my phone. Its screen showing the waveform of the recording. The green sound waves surged wildly with each of his angry outbursts. Need a reminder about the rules for handling violations in national education exams. I deliberately pushed the phone closer to his face, intentionally disrupting the college entrance exam results in disqualification of all subjects for that session, and a 3-year ban from taking the exam. Clear enough. The surrounding heckling abruptly stopped. Just do me a little favor, and you can have dinner with your childhood sweetheart. I mimicked those girls' high-pitched voices, then suddenly dropped my expression. Do you really think this is a vegetable market where you can bargain? My gaze swept over everyone's suddenly pale faces. Wanna buy one get one free? Deal 2. A guy muttered stubbornly. It's just writing a name after all. Fine. I snapped, whirling around, so suddenly he stumbled into the trash can, sending crumpled papers scattering across the floor. Then why not just write your bank card password on your exam admission ticket? 2. It's only a few digits after all. Right. Xinglu seemed startled too, suddenly letting out a soft ah, as she clutched her chest and collapsed into Chen Linfang's arms with acting like that. The Golden Broom Awards owes her a Lifetime Achievement Award. Xinglu, don't be afraid. Chen Linfang held her like she was made of glass, then turned to me with a look of disgust. Xiaoyu, if you got any conscience left. My conscience is perfectly fine, I said, pointing at the admission ticket in his hand. It's currently holding a moment of silence for your collective IQ. Xinglu called out. Yeah, through her tears, and the sobs came instantly, carving 2 clear trails down her face. Chen Linfang shot me a glare, and delivered what could only be described as a classic line. Xinglu, don't cry. The whole class is your most loyal knights. Knights, I sneered inwardly. More like they're all riding those little rocking horses. 11, he turned and strode toward the podium, his shoes thudding against the floor. He flung open the chalk box, sending white dust swirling in the sunlight. He pulled out a red marker. He lifted his chin, his voice echoing through the classroom. I'm going to write. Going on every single exam admission ticket right now. Anyone have a problem with that? The classroom erupted in cheers. Class president, You're the man, several boys shouted in unison. Xinglu, when you're a huge star, this will be your earliest autograph. I'm going to frame it and keep it. Wang Hao held his admission ticket high, the paper rustling in his grasp. You 1TT have such an easy time getting my autograph when the time comes. Wang Shi chimed in with a shrill voice, her pink hair bouncing wildly with her exaggerated gestures. Xinglu stood beside the podium, hands neatly folded in front of her like a princess receiving adoration. Her voice was sickeningly sweet. How could that be? Even if I become famous, you'll always be my best classmates, she said, her gaze sweeping past the crowd to lock onto me with a taunting look. Her eyes sparkled with the gleam of victory. Rasan won't reach a damned fool if they're so determined to throw themselves into the fire. Why should I stop them for love? Ha! It's utterly laughable in the face of a college entrance exam. Watching these hormonal young people, I was suddenly struck by the sheer absurdity of it all. They were like a swarm of moths to a flame, racing headlong toward their own destruction. One by one, the students walked up to the podium and asked Chen Lin to write those 4 characters on it. Some even pulled out their phones to start recording, saying they'd post it online to support. Xinglu camera flashes kept popping up, freezing these absurd moments in time. The classroom was filled with a sickly, festive atmosphere, with everyone lost in the collective thrill of madness. No markings are allowed on the college entrance exam admission ticket, something the teacher had emphasized repeatedly. Last year, a student from the neighboring school had their exam qualification revoked for writing on their admission ticket, and the incident even made the local news our homeroom. Teacher had specifically used that case to warn us, but now everyone seems to have conveniently forgotten that fact. Chen Lingfeng's pen scratched across the paper with a grating sound. Every time he finished a page, he would glance at me smugly as if flaunting his victory. Xinglu stood beside him like a hostess at an awards ceremony, carefully taking each exam admission ticket that had been blessed, then solemnly handing it back to its rightful owner. Every one of her movements was meticulously choreographed. Even the curve of her smile seemed rehearsed countless times. 12. Class advisor teacher Zhang burst through the door, the panel slamming against the wall with a loud bang. What's going on? Why all the noise? Your class is the loudest on the entire floor. The college entrance exam is tomorrow. Don't you have anything better to do than mess around? The classroom fell silent in an instant. Shen Linfeng hastily shoved his scribbling admission ticket into his desk quickly, plastering a sweet smile across his face, and deliberately softening his voice. Teacher Zhang, we're discussing a math problem. There's some disagreement on the last one. Teacher Zhang cast a suspicious glance around the room, her gaze lingering on me for a moment. Xiaoyu, what's wrong? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. His gaze swept past Chen Lifeng's warning glare, then skimmed over Shingle's sickly sweet, fake smile. In the end, he just shook his head. It was their own choice. Shingle's honeyed voice chimed in at just the right moment. Mr. Zhang, Xiao might be a bit too nervous. We're just trying to comfort her. Yeah, Chen Linfeng chimed in. The pressure of the college entrance exam is intense. You see, our whole class is really united. As he spoke, he cast a meaningful glance around the room. Wang Shuai immediately picked up the thread. That's right, teacher. We're all very concerned about Xiaoyu. Teacher Zhang nodded. Everyone, back to your seats. The next class is about to start. Have you all kept your exam admission tickets safe? The test is tomorrow. Yes, we have. The entire class answered in unison as I was leaving. Mr. Zhang patted me on the shoulder and said, Jawa, don't be nervous. Just perform as you normally do, and getting into Peking University won't be a problem. I believe in you. 13. The exam hall was set up at City No. 1 middle school, where the thick shade of plane trees covered the entire campus. I arrived an hour early, and a long queue had already formed at the school gate. The June sun was scorching and harsh, and the cicadas chirping rose and fell in waves. From a distance, I saw my classmates gathered in the shade of a tree with Inlu at the center, surrounded like the moon encircled by stars. She was wearing a white dress today, its hem fluttering gently with her movements, like a blooming gardenia. Everyone was excitedly discussing something, bursting into roars of laughter from time to time. Shen Linfeng held up his phone, pointing the lens at Xinglu. Quick look. Qinglu's trending. The most beautiful candidate. Xinglu. Classmates wrote messages of encouragement on their admit cards. There was an unmistakable note of pride in his voice. On the phone screen, the number of likes was skyrocketing. They stood like two door gods blocking the only path leading to the exam hall. When he saw me approaching, he deliberately raised his voice. "Oh, look who's finally here. The big shot." He waved his admission card. The bold red characters. Go Qinglu glaring at me. "What? Didn't you hang yours up like an idol?" I ignored them and walked straight towards the examination hall. Xiaoyu Qin Linfang suddenly stepped in front of me, blocking my path, his voice carrying a note of urgency I hadn't heard in a long time. "It's not too late to change your mind. We can be like we were when we were kids." I stopped and studied him carefully in the sunlight. Qin Linfang was still handsome, his tall, straight nose casting a small shadow across his face. But those eyes no longer held the spark they once did. Now they were filled only with exaggerated confidence and blind fanaticism. In middle school, Qin Linfang was widely recognized as a prodigy, a top 3 student in his grade, and the go-to debater who could quote classics at will. Back then, he was full of vigor and confidence, his white shirt sleeves always neatly rolled up to his elbows, his eyes forever alight with curiosity. He'd argue with me over a math problem until late at night, and he quietly read in a corner of the library. But now, as I watched him standing beside Xinglu, I suddenly felt he was a complete stranger ever since he started hanging around Xinglu. His grades have plummeted. He can't even make it into the top 50 of our grade anymore. It's true what they say. Spend enough time with a fool, and you'll become one yourself. Move, I said coldly, my gaze sweeping over the two of them. We're going to be late for the exam. Xinglu bit her lower lip, her eyes welling up with tears as if some switch had been flipped. Yeah, we really care about you, she said, her voice trembling just enough, fingers nervously twisting the hem of her skirt. I walked straight past them, heading toward the exam hall without looking back. Behind me, Qin Linfang shouted furiously, "Xiaoyu, you'll regret this." His voice cut through the quiet campus like a knife, drawing puzzled glances from nearby examinees. Whistles and jeers erupted from behind along with someone playing the soundtrack of Xinglu's latest short video on their phone. The cheerful melody felt completely out of place outside the solemn exam hall. 14. I gripped my admission ticket tightly in my hand. Ignoring them, I walked straight toward the entrance of the exam hall. The June sun baked the concrete ground, sending up heat waves that made the distant plants shimmer and warp slightly. At the entrance of the exam hall, the invigilator was meticulously checking every admission ticket. I silently handed over my admission ticket. The female teacher took the card, examined it thoroughly from all angles, and finally nodded, saying, "Go in, and do your best." As I walked into the exam hall, I glanced back for a moment. Wang Shua, who had just caught up, was handing in her admission ticket, and the bold red writing on it immediately caught the invigilator's attention. "What is this?" The invigilator suddenly stood up, pointing at the writing, and asking sternly, "No markings are allowed on the admission ticket. Didn't you know that?" Her face turned pale in an instant. I just wrote a good luck wish. Go wait over there. I need to consult the exam committee," the teacher said coldly, pointing toward the barrier. About 7 or 8 students from our class were already standing there, like a flock of lambs awaiting slaughter. I counted. No fewer than half of our class had already been stopped. Lai Ming was frantically wiping his admission ticket with his sleeve, only smearing the red ink. Further, Wang Hao crouched on the ground, burying his face in his hands. A few girls huddled together, quietly sobbing. Qin Linfang was the last one, and his arrogant attitude made the teacher's expression even sterner. "Teacher, it's just a few characters. No need to be so picky, right?" he said nonchalantly. "Picky?" The teacher's eyebrows nearly shot up. "This is the college entrance exam. Not a joke." Only then did Qin Linfang panic, fumbling for his phone, and starting to make a call. Xinglu stood to the side, her makeup still flawless, but her eyes were completely frantic. A few strands of her meticulously styled curls were damp with sweat among the other students who had been stopped. Some were crying while others were shouting an angry accusation. A girl suddenly rushed up to Xinglu. This is all your fault. You just had to write those stupid well wishes. What do we do now? I repeated a whole year for this. The examination hall's broadcast suddenly crackled to life. Attention all invigilators. Any candidate found with an altered or defaced admission ticket is strictly prohibited from entering the examination hall and will be treated as having violated the rules. The broadcast echoed through the sweltering air like a final judgment. The examination hall was quiet, save for the low hum of the electric fan. 15, with half an hour left until the exam. The corridor had descended into chaos, the sounds of arguments rising and falling pierced through the doors and windows of the exam rooms from my seat by the window. I could see 3 or 4 anxious-looking students standing outside each classroom. Security teachers formed a human wall in front of them, the cold glint of their metal detectors flashing in the sunlight. Silence in the National College entrance examination hall. The invigilator barked as he strode out. His voice echoed down the corridor, but it couldn't drown out the rising tide of arguments. What's going on here? The invigilator asked, frowning at the security staff. The female teacher held up several admission tickets, disbelief in her voice. Names have been written all over these tickets with a pen. Nonsense. The invigilator's face turned livid. Any writing on admission tickets is strictly prohibited. That's basic exam hall discipline. Didn't your homeroom teacher emphasize that? Teacher, we just wrote our names. This isn't cheating. A boy shot back, defiantly, sticking out his neck. Exactly. We didn't disturb anyone else. Others quickly chimed in, their voices cracking with suppressed tears. The commotion in the hallway spread like an epidemic. An invigilator hurried toward the examination office, and soon after, the exam supervisor arrived with a grave expression. Your admission ticket is invalid. Please leave the examination room immediately. The supervisor's voice was cold and emotionless. The words landed like a sledgehammer. For a split second, the corridor fell silent, then erupted into even greater chaos. The exam supervisor merely shot him a cold glance, then turned to the invigilator and said, "Get the papers ready. Start on time." His voice wasn't loud, but it doused every spark of resistance like a bucket of ice water. 16. Xinglu stood at the front of the crowd, her meticulously styled curls now slightly disheveled. When she turned and saw me through the window, those eyes that were always on the verge of tears suddenly flashed with venom. I calmly met her gaze. This time I won't back down. I used to consider her a friend, turning a blind eye to all her little schemes. But I'm no saint. Xinglu kept spreading vicious rumors behind my back. And now at this critical juncture in my life, she's even trying to drag me down with her. We're in the same class. Why does she get to take the exam? Xinglu suddenly shrieked, pointing at me, her voice grating painfully against my eardrums. That sentence was like opening the floodgates. Exactly. She wrote 1. 2. Is the eldest Miss Xiao really above the rules? Teacher, this is double standards. The noise kept rising, and several teachers couldn't hold them back. The official was shoved backward, his examination pass swinging wildly against his chest, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Enough! The official bellowed, his voice echoing down the corridor like thunder. He pointed in my direction. You there! Please come out for a moment. Enough! The official snapped. You there! Please come out for a moment. I glanced at the wall clock. The second hand ticked along at a leisurely pace with 15 minutes left until the exam began. Calmly picking up her admission ticket, she walked to the door and handed it to the invigilator. There's nothing wrong with this student's admission ticket, the invigilator announced after a careful check. That's impossible. Xinglu suddenly lunged forward. We clearly saw her write it. Her voice was strained with urgency. I'd been prepared. I sidestepped her attack and quickly snatched back my admission ticket. Xinglu missed and stumbled into Chen Lefeng's arms. Xiaoyu, how dare you bully Xinglu right in front of the teacher? Chen Linfeng held Xinglu close, his eyes blazing with fury. I ignored his outburst and turned to the other students. We still have time. Hurry up and think of a way to fix this. Then I looked at the invigilator. Can I go back now? My voice was as calm as a deep pool of water. After getting permission, I walked back to my seat without looking back. Behind me came Shaq Kingless hysterical cries. and Chen Lingfeng's impotent shouting like the finale of a farce. After school that day, I went straight to the print shop, watching my admission ticket being scanned and printed, just to be safe. I even made 5 copies. The printer hummed rhythmically, spitting out crisp white sheets, each bearing a clear image of my photo with no extra marks. 17. Why would your class write on the admission ticket? The girl behind me whispered. Didn't the homeroom teacher stress this every day? I remember they even showed that news clip during last week's class meeting. Isn't it that future Oscar winner from Class 7? The girl sitting diagonally ahead suddenly turned around, her eyes behind glasses gleaming with gossip. I heard Chen Linfo went around the entire grade trying to get her autograph. She pushed her glasses up and lowered her voice even further. My besties in Class 3, she said. Their class president actually threw Chen Leffen's autograph pen in the trash. A wave of restrained gasps rippled through the exam hall. The girl with the bun in the front right covered her mouth. Oh my God, that's just ridiculous. Who in their right mind would actually say yes to that? I heard the monitor from Class 3 kicked him out straight away, saying, if you're going to lose it, don't drag anyone else down with you. The girl with glasses mimicked the words vividly, barely holding back her laughter. Whispers rippled through the exam hall like waves. It wasn't until the invigilator banged his fist hard on the podium that everyone fell silent. Quiet! The exam is about to begin. His sharp gaze swept over each student before finally settling on the wall clock at the back of the classroom. My seat was by the window. June's sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting dappled shadows across the floor. Outside the window, Shaking Lu and the others had already been escorted away by security. Through the glass, I caught the last glance she threw back at me, filled with a hatred so deep it cut to the bone. Chen Linfeng followed behind her, his expensive sneakers sinking into the muddy ground. His once proud figure now hunched over like an old man. But I didn't care anymore. Adults always have to pay the price for their choices. And now my battlefield is this exam paper. The announcement began playing the exam rules, the robotic female voice standing out clearly in the quiet classroom. Please check if your exam paper is complete. I took a deep breath, and the brand new no. 2 pencils spun a graceful arc between my fingers. The bell suddenly rang, its sharp sound slicing through the tense air. 18. The school gate was still open, but it had become a one-way street. Security guards stood at the entrance, allowing only exits, not entries. One by one, students were let out, heads hung low, their faces pale, some with red-rimmed eyes, clutching their invalidated admission tickets, walking away with heavy steps. A girl finally broke down as she reached the school gate, squatting on the ground and sobbing uncontrollably, her carefully prepared exam stationery scattered all around her. A commotion instantly erupted outside the school gate. Parents who had been chatting in small groups immediately rushed towards the iron fence. What's going on? The exam is about to start. Why are you all coming out? A mother demanded, grabbing her son's arms so tightly her fingernails nearly dug into his flesh. Did you forget something? Go back quickly. Son, what's going on? Say something. The students from Class 7 looked like a group of defeated soldiers, all bowing their heads and too afraid to meet their parents' eyes. Some people secretly glanced toward Chen Linfeng and Qinglu standing in the corner, their eyes filled with resentment that seemed almost tangible. Reporters lurking outside the school instantly picked up on the story and swarmed forward, the dark, gaping lenses of their cameras locked onto the group of students kicked out of the exam hall. While flashes popped up nonstop, still blinding even in the morning sun, a female reporter quickly grabbed a girl by the arm. Excuse me, can you tell us why you were disqualified? Her microphone bore the logo of a major TV network gleaming in the sunlight. Chen Lingfeng's mother had been standing at the edge of the crowd when she spotted her son walking out with Xinglu. Her expression immediately darkened. She strode over in her high heels, shooting a furious glare, and snapped, Linfeng, what's going on? Chen Lingfeng's lips trembled, his head bowed, not daring to look at her. At that moment, a student finally couldn't hold back, and spoke up. It was Chen Linfeng. He wrote Qinglu's name on our exam admission tickets, saying it would help her get votes. Now all our tickets are invalid. Yes, it was him. Our entire class can't take the exam now. Auntie Xinglu also said Chen Lifang's family could get us all into universities in Jiang City. The words were like a spark to a powder keg. Parents erupted in fury, their angry voices nearly lifting the sunshades at the school gate. Is this how you rich people get away with hurting people? My daughter spent 12 years studying hard just for this day. How dare you ruin it for her? You have to take responsibility. You owe us an explanation. Angry parents surged forward, some grabbing Chen Linfeng by the collar, others shoving him in the shoulders. His mother was caught in the middle of the crowd, her carefully styled updo unraveling, her pearl necklace snapping and scattering across the ground, the pearls trampled into the dirt by the panicked throng. 19 reporters swarmed like sharks sensing blood, their microphones nearly touching Chen Lifang's face. A dozen camera record lights flashed on at once, and the dense wall of mics forced him to back away repeatedly. Classmate, was it really you who started writing names on the exam admission tickets? Classmate, was it really you who started writing names on the exam admission tickets? Does your family really have the means to arrange for them to get into university? Miss Xinglu, was this your plan? Was it to canvass votes for Rising Star? Camera flashes erupted in a relentless barrage, their blinding glare making it impossible to keep one's eyes open. Xinglu's face turned deathly pale as she shrank back, seeking refuge behind Chen Linfeng. Enough! Chen Linfeng's mother suddenly snapped. Her hand shot up. Smack! A resounding slap landed squarely on Xinglu's face. The entire room fell silent in an instant. Even the reporters instinctively took half a step back, with only the relentless clicking of camera shutters continuing to pierce the quiet. You're still so young, and instead of learning something proper, you're seducing my son to help you pull off this foolish stunt. Mother Chen's voice was shrill and piercing, laced with anger that had been pent up for far too long. Her well-kept face twisted in fury. Chen Linfeng finally snapped out of it and hurriedly reached out to pull her back. Mom! Slap! Another slap landed on Chen Linfeng's face. Have you lost your mind? You just do whatever she tells you. I told you to stay away from that kind of woman. Mrs. Chen was trembling with rage, Hermes' bag falling to the floor. Forgotten. The root of this whole farce goes back much further. The Chen family had intentions of forming a marriage alliance with the Xiao family when we were children. Xinglu would often come with me to play at the Chen's house, but because she was merely the daughter of the Qiao family's housekeeper, Mrs. Chen never gave her the time of day back then. Chen Linfeng didn't like hanging out with Xinglu either, always making excuses to avoid her. When Xinglu returned for high school, she had blossomed into a graceful young woman. Chen's mother would often come up with various reasons to call Chen Linfeng home, keeping him away from Xinglu, but she had no idea how close Chen Linfeng and Xinglu actually were at school. He'd skipped self-study to film short videos with her, save up his allowance to buy her the latest jewelry, and even put on his school jacket to cover her when it rained. And now it all erupted like a farcical spectacle, exploding completely on the most crucial day, the National College Entrance Examination 20. 2 police cars screeched to a halt at the school gate for officers swiftly exited the vehicles, and the lead officer boomed in a commanding voice. What's going on here? Who called the police? It was me. A bespectacled boy thrust his hand high into the air. They're suspected of organizing cheating on the Gao, and they even promised to illegally manipulate university admissions. The reporters' lenses immediately swiveled their cameras from long lenses to compact ones, all trained on the police. Camera flashes erupted in a continuous flicker. Chen Linfeng's mother instantly turned deathly pale. Trembling, she fished out her phone from her Hermes bag. Lawyer Wang, get to the entrance of No One High School immediately. Xinglu huddled in a corner, her face buried in her hands. Her carefully styled curls were now a disheveled mess, plastered to her tear-streaked cheeks. Her hand shook as she pulled out her phone, only to be stopped by an officer as she tried to dial. Mississippi, please cooperate with the investigation. The policewoman's voice wasn't harsh, but it carried an undeniable authority. I just wanted to call my mom, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her meticulously manicured nails dug deep into her palms. Her eyes darted frantically over the crowd, searching for Chen Linfeng like a drowning person grasping for a lifeline. But Chen Linfeng was currently surrounded and interrogated by 3 furious parents, His limited edition sneakers were covered in footprints, and the collar of his expensive t-shirt was stretched out of shape. His mother's high heels clicked sharply against the floor. Everyone rest assured Urchin family will take full responsibility for this matter. She turned to the police officer with a sudden bright smile. Officer, this is just kids fooling around. Whether it's fooling around or not will be determined by the investigation, the lead officer said sternly. Opening his notebook, the red light on his bottom camera blinked on his chest. According to Article 27 of the National Education Examination Violation Handling Measures, the deliberate destruction of admission tickets constitutes a disciplinary violation, and the organizer bears legal responsibility. His voice wasn't loud, yet it cut through the noisy crowd with remarkable clarity. Make way! Make way! The siren of an ambulance sliced through the crowd. It turned out a mother had fainted from emotional distress, and medical personnel were pushing through with a stretcher. The reporter seized the chance to stop the distraught Xinglu. Did you know beforehand that writing on the exam admission ticket was against the rules? Was it worth ruining the futures of 30 classmates just to get votes for a talent show? I heard your mother works as a maid for the Chow family. The question made her jerk her head up, a flash of venom flickering in her bloodshot eyes. Her lips parted, but no words came out, only silent tears tracing a path down her swollen cheeks. That venomous glare was captured with chilling precision by the high-definition cameras, laid bare for all to see in the close-up shots across every major media outlet. 21 that night, the trending charts exploded. Hashtag English exam admission ticket covered in well wishes, hashtag trending explosively, hashtag rising staring campaigns for votes, hashtag hot, hashtag tycoon's son organizes cheating to support his idol, hashtag boiling over, hashtag Maya's the richest man in town, hashtag new. The comment section is in an uproar. This is the pure and innocent campus belle. You've all been hyping up vomit how while using a classmate's future as a stepping stone just to get votes. This is hilarious. Even the college entrance exam has to make way for her debut. Who's the big star here? What? You think money makes you better? Ruining someone's future is a crime against heaven. Breaking news. The Education Bureau has set up a special task force to investigate this matter. When I handed in my exam paper and walked out of the exam hall, a handful of reporters still lingered at the school gate. Spotting students emerging, they immediately thrust their microphones forward. Do you know about the cheating scandal this morning? No, I don't, I replied, pulling my cap down and quickening my pace. Their chatter followed me as I walked away. I heard it was a mass cheating scheme organized by the son of the richest man in town, all to impress some celebrity. Breaking news. The Education Bureau has formed a special task force to investigate the Chin Group. I calmly finished all the exams. After the exam, I anonymously sent the full video recorded by the classroom surveillance to the Education Bureau's investigation team. The video clearly showed Chenlin coercing and bribing classmates to write on their admission tickets while Xinglu stood by fanning the flames. 3 months later, the court delivered its verdict. Chenlin was sentenced to 3 years in prison for organizing exam fraud. The Chen Group was placed under investigation for suspected education corruption, with its stock price plummeting by 60%. Xinglu was disqualified from the Rising Star competition, faced a joint boycott from the entertainment industry, and was also banned from taking exams for 5 years. Although the other implicated students reprinted their admission tickets and took the remaining exams, they were severely affected by the incident, leading to a significant mental imbalance and poor performance in the subsequent tests. Some chose to retake the exam. Others reluctantly enrolled in a junior college, and there were those whose grades weren't good enough and whose families wouldn't let them retake the exam, so they followed relatives to work in the South. On the day the college entrance exam results were announced, I received my acceptance letter from Beijing University. My score of 712 glowed in the sunlight, and my homeroom teacher shook my hand excitedly, saying, "Koyu, you're the pride of our school." Standing at the gate of my alma mater, I gazed at my photo on the honor roll. Beside it were the spots once occupied by Chenlin Fong and Xinglu. Now only 2 empty nails remained. The end. Story 2. Reborn in 2 lifetimes. The first time I died in despair. In the second life, I wanted to save others. But after the zombie outbreak, intruders broke into my home. I was falsely accused by normally kind neighbors and ultimately attacked by an angry mob, with my entire family tragically beaten to death when I woke up again. It was 1 month before the zombie outbreak. This time, I won't just wait for death. I suddenly opened my eyes, my chest still heaving rapidly, my entire body drenched in sweat. The clock on the wall pointed to 3 a.m. I'm back again. This is my second rebirth. On New Year's Eve, 1 month later, zombies suddenly broke out, turning this place into a living hell. The first time I had no idea what was about to happen that day. My parents and older brother went out to buy more New Year's goods, leaving me alone at home. I cowered at home in fear, too terrified to go outside or contact anyone. Fortunately, we had stockpiled plenty of food at home, allowing me to barely survive for half a year before ultimately perishing from hunger, terror, and despair. When I woke up again, I found myself in the present. In my previous life, I had tried desperately to save others. I warned everyone about the impending disaster, urging them to stock up on food and reinforce their defenses, only to be dismissed as a fear-mongering lunatic. Back then, only my family believed me. We carried out our preparations under the judgmental stares of others. When the zombies arrived, our usually warm and friendly neighbor Aloan led the community in breaking into our home, stealing all the food supplies we had prepared. Originally, the others just wanted to steal the food, but Aloan shouted, "I can foresee this. I must be the one who brought the zombies." The illogical statement ignited everyone's anger. Our family of 4 died under the chaotic blows. I opened my eyes wide, watching these frenzied people, feeling so unwilling. It's only been a week since the zombie outbreak, right at the year's end. You shouldn't be short on food at all. All I wanted was to save you, having lived through 2 lifetimes. I didn't die by the teeth of zombies, but by my own cowardice. At the hands of those I tried to save, I calmed myself and was about to go find my parents, when upon opening the door, I saw my brother standing outside. His face was pale, his forehead covered in sweat. "Isabella, have you returned too?" I immediately realized my brother also had memories from our past life. Sobbing, I threw myself into his arms. "Last time I was too arrogant, not only useless, but also brought harm to my family. Brother, it was my foolishness that led to your tragic deaths." He wiped away my tears and said, "You're just too kind. Isabella, don't be afraid. This time, your brother will face it with you. We will survive together." Our parents woke up from the commotion and stood at the bedroom door, looking at us in confusion. Mom was the first to speak. "What's wrong? Isabella, what happened to upset you?" My brother and I exchanged glances, then told them about our previous 2 lives. Just as I expected, they believed me without hesitation. With tears in her eyes, Mom hugged both me and my brother tightly. "My poor babies have suffered so much." Dad remained silent beside us, but I could feel his profound heartache. Once our emotions had calmed down, we began discussing countermeasures. We counted all the money at home, totaling 600,000, which we planned to use entirely for purchasing supplies. In my first life, I barely survived for half a year when zombies were still rampant, so this time we needed to stockpile at least a year's worth of food. Next was choosing a place to settle down with the experience from our past life. We knew our current house was definitely unsafe. My brother did offer a suggestion. My brother had been working at a gas station since his vacation started. He mentioned that the gas station owner passed away last month. The owner had poor health, and once when my brother took him home, he discovered the owner lived in a very remote self-built house in the suburbs. It was 3 stories tall, appeared extremely sturdy from the outside, and most importantly, there was no one around. A perfect place to hide. Moreover, the old station master only has 1 grandson who's said to be doing very well in the big city and would never come back. That place must be empty now. We all thought this location was ideal and immediately decided that Dad and I would go check it out tomorrow. I said, "Tomorrow we'll rent a car. During this period, we'll need to make large-scale purchases and transport everything ourselves. I don't trust others to deliver for us. If we buy too much when the zombie outbreak happens, we'll easily draw attention." My brother nodded in agreement. After thinking for a moment, he wrote down a few names on paper. "When you go rent a car, look for these specific models. They're all extremely sturdy have large capacity, and run on diesel. We'll also need to stockpile lots of diesel fuel. It has a long shelf life and can last for years. If this disaster drags on, we'll inevitably need to go out for supplies and opportunities later. Plus, diesel can generate electricity, so we can use freezers to preserve perishable food. I nodded. My brother was truly impressive. We quickly finalized our plan. Dad is a construction worker, while Mom takes on odd jobs, sometimes working as a nanny for other families. Now that work has stopped for the new year. They can focus fully on preparations. Tomorrow, Dad and I will first go rent a car, then look at houses. Mom will stay home to sort through usable items for the move. Meanwhile, my brother will still go to work at the gas station to inquire about bulk diesel purchases. That night, my thoughts were chaotic, but I knew there would be much to do starting tomorrow. I forced myself to sleep for a while. When I woke up, I noticed both my parents and brother looked unwell. Apparently, no one had slept properly. Mom still made breakfast as usual. Eat more. You'll all have a busy day ahead. My dad and I visited several car rental shops. And finally, as per my brother's request, we rented a diesel SUV. After bargaining with the owner for a long time, he agreed to let us rent it for 25 days and gave us 5 extra days for free. Even so, over 20,000 yuan was spent in an instant. I felt somewhat worried as there were still many expenses ahead, and we needed to budget carefully with the 600,000 yuan. After that, we went to the old station master's house. As soon as we saw this place, we decided to make it our hideout. Although this is a self-built house, you can tell at a glance that a lot of effort was put into it. While I don't know much about construction, my father took a quick look around and told me that the building quality here is excellent. He brought his own tools, and with just a little work, the door lock was opened. The interior of the house has 3 floors. The first floor contains the living room, dining area, and kitchen. The second and third floors each have 3 bedrooms, providing quite spacious accommodation. There's also a small staircase leading to the rooftop, which features a small terrace. Most of the rooftop space is occupied by movable flower beds. It seems the old station master used to grow some vegetables up there. Additionally, several solar panels were installed, but they appear to be broken and haven't been repaired. The most surprising discovery was the basement. The entrance is next to the dining area and is quite narrow, but the basement itself is quite spacious. If we get a generator later, it could be placed in the basement to help reduce noise. Dad and I took inventory of the furniture inside. We kept the useful items like the refrigerator, beds, and the kitchen cooking area, which was connected to a gas cylinder. This worked out well since we just needed to stock up on extra gas cylinders for cooking. As for unnecessary appliances like the washing machine and TV, we loaded them into the car and sold them at a second-hand furniture store. In the end, we made a total of 20,000 yuan from the sales. It took us several trips back and forth to finally clean up the place. We left 2 beds in the 2 rooms on the second floor, and 1 bed in a room on the third floor. The third floor room has a good view, so it's likely someone will need to keep watch there at night. I sketched a rough layout of the place, and then headed home with Dad. Just parked downstairs when I saw our neighbor with her daughter Juniper. Ilon greeted me warmly as usual, but after driving all day and moving furniture for hours, I was exhausted, combined with what Aloan did to my family in my past life. I couldn't muster any warmth, and only responded coldly. She seemed oblivious, and suddenly pointed at our car as if discovering something extraordinary. Isabella, you bought a car. She clicked her tongue repeatedly. This car looks so luxurious. Must cost several hundred. 000, oh my. How could you afford this? Just then, my mom heard the commotion and came down to greet us. Seeing the 3 of us, Ilon exclaimed, "Oh dear, what a tragedy. Why do you all look so pale?" "Girl!" I looked up and realized that after a long day and poor rest the night before, we did indeed appear utterly exhausted. In the past, if I'd heard Alahan say this, I would have thought she was showing concern, but now I could clearly detect the Schadenfreude in her tone. Thought crossed my mind, and without responding to her, I took my parents' hands and led them back inside. Once home, my mother gritted her teeth. and said, "That venomous woman who knew she could hide her true nature so well if we hadn't agreed to keep a low profile. I'd be tempted to tear her mouth apart." I pulled my mom to sit on the sofa. "Mom, we're extremely short on funds right now, but I've come up with a great solution." Before long, my brother came back. After a quick meal, we started discussing how to renovate the old station master's house. First, we need to reinforce the windows with steel plates from the inside. Then, we'll add 2 more layers of doors. The current locks aren't secure enough and need replacing. The solar panels on the roof should also be upgraded to new ones. I explained the situation with the basement. That entrance is very narrow. We could turn it into a hidden door if intruders ever break in. This would be our last line of defense. Everyone agrees with my opinion. In addition, we need to install several shelves for storing ingredients. The flower beds upstairs can also be tidied up if conditions permit. We could even grow some vegetables there, so we wouldn't always be consuming food supplies. If there's time left at the end, we'll build a side shed next to it for parking the car. We've listed the required construction materials. Tomorrow, my dad and I will go buy the supplies, and then we can start the construction. We estimated the costs. Materials would be around 40,000, and after accounting for selling secondhand furniture and car rentals, we still have 560,000 left. Dad rubbed his hands together. "Starting tomorrow, I'll be living there. I'll work overtime if needed, but I'll definitely finish it. You just need to deliver the materials and bring me meals daily." My brother quit his gas station job. Today I found out where to buy diesel. The current station manager's friend's company purchased large quantities from the oil company. We can buy some from them, though at a higher price. Buying directly from the oil company would require many permits we don't have. Tomorrow I'll handle this. Then we can transport it ourselves. I nodded and shared Mom's and my plan with them, making sure we all had the same story. Early the next morning, I set off with my dad. This was usually the time alone would go out to buy groceries. And sure enough, we ran into her in the hallway right after going downstairs. "Corbin, Isabella, you're heading out so early." "Yeah, alone," I replied coldly on purpose. True to form, she continued prying. "What are you going out so early for?" "Taking my dad to work at the construction site." "Oh, come on. It's the New Year break. No construction sites are operating now. There's one site in the neighboring city rushing their project." My dad went there. "It's almost New Year. Isn't Corbin taking a break?" My dad sighed and pretended to reluctantly say, "A friend urgently needs help hiring, so I'm just going to lend a hand." I didn't speak, but my eyes turned red. We went downstairs, and shortly after getting in the car, we received a text from my mom. "Your Aloan is here." Oomph! That wretched woman must have stuck to us like a fly when she saw something interesting happening at our place. We went to the largest building materials market in the city. However, our renovation requires a large quantity of materials, and that SUV couldn't hold everything. We've agreed to purchase the materials needed for each week separately, making multiple trips to transport them ourselves. I dropped Dad off, and my brother called to say he bought diesel and borrowed a vehicle to deliver it, telling me not to worry. I immediately headed to the food market and began shopping frantically. I bought 100 bags of 10 pounds long storage rice, 100 boxes of dried noodles, and a large quantity of canned fish and beef in the canned food section, quickly spending 30,000 yuan. By the time I delivered the supplies to the house, my brother had already arrived, and the diesel fuel was also purchased, costing 20,000 yuan. I brought some food over, and after we ate, my brother and I went to the water station. I bought 200 cases of mineral water, spending 10,000 yuan. Fortunately, my brother had borrowed a car, so we barely managed to transport all the water. By the time we got back in the evening, we were completely exhausted. Mom had cooked dinner at home and told me about today's situation. I told her about your brother taking out a loan shark to buy a car, and now, even after selling the car, he still can't repay it. When I hinted at selling the house at a low price, she showed immediate interest. I let out a cold laugh. I never understood why Aloan harbored such malice toward us in our previous life. But yesterday it became clear to me. She simply resents others for living better lives. Both my brother and I got into top universities, while Juniper only went to a second-tier college. She used to say she envied us, but would always sourly remark that studying wasn't that useful anyway. My father is honest and beautiful, though he doesn't earn much. He dedicates everything to our family. Ilon's husband, on the other hand, just loves gambling and drinking, completely neglecting household matters. Yet she often makes snide remarks about my dad being unambitious, even among neighbors. She thinks our house is more spacious with better lighting and nicer decor than theirs. Every time she mentions it, her eyes reveal intense envy and fascination. Actually, we all live in the same neighborhood, just next door. So, how much difference can there be? She just loves to compare, and the more she compares, the more twisted her mindset becomes. Suddenly, we got a new car, and in her eyes, my dad rushed out to work during the new year to pay off debts. I just want her to think our family has hit rock bottom, so she'll feel like she can take advantage of a big bargain soon. Mom, just tell her we want to sell our house for $500,000. The current market price for this house is at least $600,000. So $500,000 is already much lower. But I'm sure Aloan will still try to haggle no matter how much she bargains. Sell it for $400,000 if she offers that. The only condition is we need the money immediately. Tell her we'll definitely move out before the new year and go live in our rural hometown. If she wants to transfer the property, just cooperate with her. Mom nodded and said, "All right, I'll listen to you." In the following days, my brother and I were busy with purchases. We bought 4 large freezers and 4 medium-sized generators, all placed in the basement, worried about equipment failure. We stocked up on basic spare parts for repairs, thanks to my brother's background in automation. Fixing common electrical issues wasn't a problem. We went to the livestock market and bought large quantities of beef, pork, lamb, etc., all portioned and frozen in the freezers. As a medical student, I also prepared a list of common household medications: cold medicine, fever reducers, diarrhea treatments, vitamin tablets, disinfectants, etc., all purchased and ready. We also went to the outdoor store and bought solar-powered lights, kerosene lamps, and a portable water purifier. I remember there was a period of extreme cold in the first life, so I bought 4-down sleeping bags as well. If we need to go out later to search for supplies, the sleeping bags will come in handy. Thinking ahead, I purchased high-performance outdoor jackets, hiking backpacks, and trekking shoes for our family of 4. Half a month had passed by the time we finished all these preparations. When we returned in the evening, Mom told me that Alone had taken the bait and offered $450,000 to buy our house. She said she could pay us in cash, but also demanded immediate transfer of ownership. Mom agreed and brought back a purchase contract for us to review. If everything looks good, we'll sign it, and the payment and property transfer can be completed tomorrow. My brother and I looked over the contract and didn't see any major issues. The compensation amount for breach of contract was very high, but we didn't have time to go through it with her in detail, so we agreed to sign it. The property deed was already in our mother's name anyway, so we let her handle everything regarding this matter. The next day, my brother and I went to stock up on instant food products like instant noodles, self-heating hot pots, and shelf-stable milk. These items were rare delicacies at that time. I also bought large quantities of compressed biscuits and instant oatmeal, all things that were easy to carry. In the afternoon, we ordered 20 gas cylinders. I also bought some small gas canisters and portable stoves, which should solve our cooking problems. If we needed to last longer, we'd have to think of other solutions. I only bought 2 weeks' worth of fresh vegetables and fruits, but to ensure we wouldn't suffer from vitamin deficiency, I also purchased large amounts of frozen vegetables and fruits to store in the freezer. Passing by the ice cream shop, I couldn't resist and wholesale purchased a large box of ice cream. Since then, our freezer has been packed to the brim. As I finished up and prepared to head home, a sudden sense of foreboding came over me, so I urged my brother to drive faster and hurry back. Upon returning, We found my mom pushed to the ground at the doorstep, with the house in complete disarray. Alone was arrogantly shouting in my house. "This is already my home now. Get out immediately. If you don't leave, I'll call the police." I was furious and rushed over to help my mother up. "Mom, what's going on?" My mother cried and said I had agreed with her that we would definitely move out 1 week before the new year. But as soon as the transfer was completed today, she immediately went back on her word and insisted we leave right away. My mother had been pushed, spraining her ankle, and now she was frowning in pain as she tried to stand alone look triumphant. "Your family really has no moral integrity, borrowing from loan sharks until you lost your house." My brother looked at our mother's swollen ankle, rushed over, and grabbed Aloan by the collar, saying fiercely, "We'll give you the house and move out tomorrow. You've hurt my mom like this. Aren't you afraid that someone like me who deals with loan sharks will spend the rest of my life watching you? And your entire family?" My brother's eyes were full of menace, and Aloan shuddered. "Let me go. I'll leave right now." My brother threw her to the ground. She stood up, dusted herself off, and said, "I'll come for the house first thing tomorrow morning. I'm giving you a little extra time, so don't try to overstay your welcome." With that, she quickly skirted away. Juniper followed her, mother out, but before leaving, she gloated, "Isabella, your family's moving to the countryside. I've finally outdone you." My brother rushed over and pushed her out the door. "You're insane. Who the hell is comparing with you?" With that, he slammed the door shut with great force. I helped my mom onto the bed and checked her ankle. "It shouldn't be too serious. A few days of rest, and she'll be fine." Wiping her tears, she suddenly laughed and handed me the bank card. "Isabella, 450,000. Go ahead with your plans without worry." I finally couldn't hold back my tears. This is just how my parents are. They might not say sweet words, but they always give their all to support us, always trusting us, unconditionally. My brother came over and hugged me and my mom, saying, "Don't worry, I won't let them get away with this." Over the past few days, my mom had already inventoried our belongings. We'd moved quite a few usable items, leaving only old clothes and daily necessities behind. I looked around, packed a few things to take with me, and decided to let them do whatever they wanted with the rest. But I couldn't bear the thought of them benefiting from this. I ended up ruining all the appliances and food by pouring water into them, and cut up the bedding and other fabrics. I'd rather waste these things than let that family have them. After finishing this, I went to sleep. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I saw my brother had set up a ladder in my room. He seemed to be working on something near the ceiling. Half asleep, I couldn't tell if it was a dream or reality, and soon fell back asleep. The next day, I asked my brother, but he said I must have dreamed it. I checked the ceiling but found nothing unusual, so I didn't think much of it. None of us wanted to run into Alan again, so we set off before dawn. Time was running short, but the house renovations weren't finished yet, so we discussed dividing the work again. Mom's foot is injured now, so she's resting at home. My brother stayed behind to work with Dad. Between the two of them, they should be able to finish the carport. I continued handling the procurement work. Actually, there wasn't much money left before, but now with an extra 450,000, I've stocked up on some canned food and water. I also bought some building materials to store in the garage, making repairs easier if anything gets damaged with spare money. Now, I purchased books, board games, ping pong equipment, a treadmill, and other sports gear. Over time, without any entertainment facilities, psychological issues can easily arise. I also bought an outdoor camera and a monitor, planning to install them on the rooftop to monitor the surroundings. This camera has an automatic alarm feature. It will alert us immediately if any living creature moves nearby. This will be quite useful, at least in the early stages before the power goes out. I also bought new phones and tablets for all of us since we have a generator, and solar panels. These low-power devices can be put to good use. As I was preparing to head back, I passed by a dog meat restaurant. A strong fishy smell wafted out, and at the entrance stood a massive iron cage covered in blood stains with a German shepherd locked inside. The German shepherd didn't look very old. Its size was only about half that of an adult. It was huddled in a corner, trembling, but when it saw me, it suddenly pressed against the bars and let out a helpless whimper. Hearing the noise, the shop owner came over to check and cursed viciously again. The German shepherd quickly retreated. Seeing my interest, the owner said, "Little girl, want some dog meat? This is a purebred German shepherd. Look at how fine its features are." "No thanks." I walked toward my car without looking back. But after a moment, I couldn't bear it and turned around. "Boss, how much for this dog?" After 20 minutes of bargaining, I ended up leading the dog away. I sighed. "You're lucky I have some extra money right now." His eyes darted around looking at me. And finally, he nuzzled my calf before following me. I originally thought my parents would scold me for bringing the German shepherd home since future circumstances are uncertain. And an extra dog means more expenses. To my surprise, they accepted it very calmly, saying, "At a time like this, if you could bring it home, it must be fate, perhaps heaven's arrangement." Soon they grew fond of it too. We discussed naming it but couldn't think of anything suitable until my brother finally said, "Stop overthinking it. Just call it German Shepherd." My brother really knows how to take the easy way out. After getting the German Shepherd, we decided to stock up on more supplies. The next day, my brother took me and the German Shepherd out. I took the German Shepherd to the vet for a full checkup, got all the necessary shots, and stocked up on common pet medications. My brother and I split up. He went to buy dog food, canned food, a dog crate, and other supplies for the German Shepherd. Surprisingly, he also brought back a few bows and arrows along with some tools and materials I couldn't recognize. With bows and arrows, we can defend against not just zombies, but also people, he said while tidying up his things. There's only 1 week left until New Year's Eve, and our preparations are almost complete. So, we're all hunkered down in our new home, getting used to our new life here. The entire house renovation is finished. With my brother's help, not only was the garage built, but we also added a fireplace. The house originally had a chimney. We were concerned that in case of extreme weather, having a fireplace would provide warmth, and if the gas tank runs out, it could also be used for cooking. In the remaining time, I occasionally scrolled through my phone, downloaded many movies, TV shows, ebooks, and various games on my tablet, and whenever I had free time, I took the German Shepherd out for walks to familiarize myself with the surrounding terrain. My brother practiced archery diligently, or else tinkered with his tools. Before long, he actually managed to make a crossbow. Dad inspected the house every day, checking which areas needed reinforcement. Mom also researched how to cook meals that would keep everyone well-fed while maximizing the use of available resources. Sometimes she would also show me Alohan's social media posts, which were full of boastful content, often taking passive-aggressive jabs at our family. I don't care as much now. I just want our family to be happy together. We are all silently waiting for that day to come just like before. News alerts kept popping up on the phone. Multiple locations reported humans with bluish, purple complexions exhibiting extreme aggression. These humans seemed to have lost consciousness and the ability to feel pain. This was just the beginning. The media would still call them humans soon. As early as tomorrow, they would be called zombies. My brother and I ran up to the 3rd floor observing the surroundings while he occasionally checked his phone. In the current situation, most people who saw the news would just quietly retreat home, waiting for the chaos to subside. Moreover, this place is extremely remote. No people, no zombies. Mom and Dad are both downstairs cooking, and we can already smell the delicious aroma of food before even going down. Most of the furniture here has been moved out by us, leaving only a square table in the dining room, now fully laden with delicious dishes. Just then, Dad brought up a pot of boiled fish and placed it steadily at the center. Mom's voice came from the kitchen. "You guys start eating first. I'll join you after I get my 8 treasure porridge stewing." My brother is helping set the table, where since we don't have a TV here, I searched on the tablet for a while and found that the Spring Festival Gala is still being broadcast as usual, though it feels particularly lonely coming from such a small screen. Yet, when the whole family sat together neatly to start the New Year's Eve dinner, the atmosphere still became lively. The German Shepherd also squatted beside its bowl, and Mom gave it a big chicken drumstick. It's New Year's today, so you get a special treat, too. The German Shepherd instantly got excited, jumping around and wagging its tail wildly. We all laughed at its silly antics. I also prepared some low-hole wine. Even Mom, who never drinks, tried a little and exclaimed in surprise. I always thought alcohol was bitter and spicy, but this one is sweet and delicious. Midway through the meal, I actually heard fireworks, something I hadn't noticed in my first life. Back then, I was only frantically calling my parents, completely oblivious to how the outside world had progressed. Looking back now, the situation on New Year's Eve wasn't that bad. After all, we all ran to the rooftop terrace to watch the fireworks. The display was in the city center, and from our vantage point, we could only see a tiny flickering dot. But soon, even that flickering dot disappeared. My phone started buzzing with news alerts again. I clicked on the video to see chaotic crowds in the park with a reporter announcing Donghu Park, where the fireworks festival was being held, has suddenly been attacked by extremely aggressive individuals whose characteristics closely resemble those involved in similar incidents worldwide. We were originally bringing you this live coverage. Then the footage showed fleeing crowds with several zombies frantically biting people. Some who had fallen bleeding to the ground were getting back up in grotesquely twisted postures. In the first life, it was just like this. Those attacked would typically turn into zombies within 5 to 10 minutes. Back then, I witnessed from the balcony how familiar neighbors around me became bloodied and struggled in agony. That's why in my previous life, I was so desperate to save others. I don't want to recall what happened next. Turning my head, I saw my parents' faces had turned pale. Perhaps only at this moment did they truly understand what I meant by zombies. My brother patted my shoulder and said, "Let's go back. We should check all the doors and windows and secure everything that needs to be locked." We barricaded the iron gate on the terrace. At the time, fearing someone might break in from above, we installed 3 additional doors here. After making sure all the doors and windows were securely locked, we returned to the table. But by then, no one had any appetite left to continue eating. My brother, who after all had memories from his previous life, appeared much calmer. "Eat a bit more," he said. "It's a shame to waste such a lavish meal. Let's rest well tonight. Things are only going to get tougher from here, and we'll need to stay sharp." We all knew he was right, so we forced ourselves to eat a little more before retiring to our rooms to rest. That night, no one wanted to sleep alone. In the end, the German Shepherd slept on his dog bed downstairs, while my brother stayed with Dad, and I shared a room with Mom in adjacent bedrooms on the second floor. Around 4 or 5 in the morning, Mom's phone rang. Checking the caller ID, it turned out to be Aloan. Mom and I exchanged glances, unsure of her intentions, but since Aloan is full of tricky ideas, it's best to avoid contact. I took the phone and hung up on her. Soon enough, the second call came through. It seemed she wouldn't give up until we answered, so I pressed accept. Aloan's panicked voice came through the phone. "Callista, how are you guys doing?" My mother said coldly. "What do you want?" She lowered her voice. "This virus is terrifying. So many people in our building have been infected. They're wandering around the hallways now." Seeing that none of us responded, she continued, "I checked, and it's still in town where people are too densely packed and easily infected. Didn't you go to the countryside? How are things there?" I gave my mother a look, and she immediately caught on, pretending not to understand. "I don't know what you're talking about. What virus?" Her voice brightened with joy. "Seems like nothing's happening in the countryside." "Oh, Callista, since our families are so close, we thought we'd come visit you in the countryside. This Aloan, after all the trouble she caused with us before, now wants to come crawling back. How shameless." I snatched the phone. "Aloan, we dare not associate with you anymore. Who knows when you might drive us away again." She gave an awkward laugh. "Isabella, let's not bring up the past. They say a near neighbor is better than a distant relative. We should support each other." I let out a cold laugh. "Even if we were willing to take you in, how would you get here?" Hearing this, she mistakenly thought I was relenting. "Didn't your family take out a loan to buy a new car? I saw you driving before. You're good at it. Why don't you come pick me up?" Alone. You said yourself how terrifying that virus is. How could I dare to go out recklessly? It's fine. You young people have strong constitutions. No need to be afraid. This woman is utterly selfish. Alone. It's perfectly safe here. You can come if you want. But let me tell you, you're already so old. You might as well just stay home and wait to die. After saying that, I hung up. Alone kept frantically calling. So I blocked her. Then she started messaging my mom and sending me abusive texts on WeChat. I simply turned on Do Not Disturb. I didn't delete her outright because I still wanted to see the drama unfold. With all the commotion Alone caused, I couldn't sleep anymore. So, I got up with my mom to make breakfast. She cooked a thick, hearty rice porridge, while I steamed a basket of dumplings and dug out some salted duck eggs. A simple yet delicious breakfast was ready. After dinner, my brother and I curled up on the sofa playing games for a while. And when we got tired, we dozed off on the couch. Nothing particularly eventful happened all day, and we went to bed early again in the evening until midnight. I heard something hitting a metal plate. I listened carefully and realized the sound was coming from the first-floor window. I immediately snapped awake and tiptoed to the third floor to wake up my brother. All our windows are sealed with steel plates, and opening them would inevitably make a lot of noise. If it's a zombie, that would only draw its attention for now. We can't really see what's going on. After some thought, I turned on the monitor and rewound 10 minutes in the night vision mode. I could see a tall zombie staggering around the area. Actually, he wasn't initially interested in our house, but something later hit the window, and that's when he came over. From this perspective, zombies seem to be primarily very sensitive to sound. I'm not too worried. Our house has excellent soundproofing as long as we don't make too much noise inside. Nothing can be heard from outside. My older brother said, "We can't let him stay here. It's too quiet in this area, and he might attract other zombies." I realized he was right. So, what should we do now? My brother pulled out his crossbow from under the bed and leaned against the window. That's when I noticed the third-floor window had always been left slightly ajar. My brother turned back and explained, "This makes it easier to hear what's happening outside," I said helplessly. But when he knocked earlier, "It was me who woke you up." He leaned the crossbow against the small crack, pulled the trigger, and I heard the sound of the sharp arrow cutting through the air, followed by the impact of the arrow hitting the stone. However, the sound was too faint. The knocking downstairs only paused briefly before resuming. The zombie wasn't lured away. My brother then tied some scrap metal to the arrow, and this time the noise finally drew it away. But from the surveillance footage, we can see he's still lingering nearby. My parents came upstairs at this point, and after discussing, we decided it still needed to be killed. But it's nighttime now, and visibility is poor, so we should wait until daylight to make a plan. Dad told us to sleep first. He would keep watch tonight and alert us if the zombie came back. I slept restlessly all night and woke up as soon as dawn broke. At this moment, there were 2 more zombies around, but they were just aimlessly wandering nearby. My brother and I both ran to the rooftop. He set up his bow, and we chose a zombie that was farther from its companions. The first few shots missed, either hitting the zombie legs or chest. I realized these spots caused minimal damage. They only angered it without hindering its movement, but soon he spotted us. The zombie's intelligence seemed low, yet its speed was astonishing as it swiftly charged toward our direction. The other 2 zombies seemed to notice as well, turning their gaze toward us. My heart pounded like a drum until I saw an arrow strike its forehead directly. With a hoarse roar, it struggled briefly before collapsing. Slowly, I instantly felt relieved, only then realizing my back was drenched in sweat. My brother muttered, "Looks like a headshot is the only way." A few more days passed with scattered zombies coming occasionally. Our initial fear turned into calmness, and we basically eliminated all the approaching zombies. The turning point came on this day. Alone kept cursing at us for days, but when she realized we were ignoring her, she started speaking meekly again, trying to get us to reveal our location to her. After being ignored for several consecutive days, she finally exploded. We had just finished lunch, and I was about to browse the news when I saw continuous WeChat notifications. I clicked in and saw it was the old neighborhood property management group chat. Although we had moved away, we hadn't left the group alone. and was spamming the chat, mainly accusing our family of living in a very safe place while disregarding others' lives, calling our behavior extremely selfish and despicable. She sent over a dozen messages in a row, all cursing and condemning our entire family. As for the other neighbors, upon hearing there might be a safe place now, they couldn't wait for me to reveal the exact location, fanning the flames and joining in the accusations against us. Only a few families spoke up, saying that even if there was a safe place, everyone rushing there en masse would attract zombies. They advised people to focus on protecting themselves first and not to pressure others. But such voices were quickly drowned out by the curses of others. Most claimed these families must have abundant supplies themselves, hence their lack of urgency. Some even made threatening remarks about coming to their doors to demand resources. Reading the lengthy tirades, I couldn't help but sneer. Illah's tactics were just this, nothing more than trying to use public pressure to make us buckle under moral condemnation and reveal our location, exactly the same as the previous life. It's only been a week. There shouldn't be any household without supplies. Now everyone just wants to leech off others. Thinking back, the reason I survived so long in the first life was probably because I kept too quiet alone. Some people saw my parents and brother going out to shop together, and must have assumed our house was empty, which spared us. As for alone, I wasn't even going to bother with her. But since she's asking for trouble, she can't blame me. Alone, I never said this place was safe. On the contrary, the rural house is old, and we fear zombies, breaking in daily. Besides, Aloan, when we sold you the house cheaply, you rushed us out overnight. We left behind many New Year supplies we bought, plus your own stockpiles. Your family should have plenty. Why abandon a relatively safe home to incite everyone to flee to the countryside? Are you waiting for neighbors to leave so you can loot what they can't take? With zombies everywhere, have you considered the safety of others by urging them to run out as soon as my words were spoken? The group fell silent. I believe those words must have hit like a bomb dropped into deep water, surely stirring up intense psychological reactions among them. At that moment, my brother came over and pointed at the group chat interface, asking me what was going on. I then explained the whole story about how Aloan had called earlier wanting to join us, and proceeded to curse her vehemently. My brother patted my head and said, "Isabella, let me show you something good." He then opened an app, and to my surprise, I saw our original home. Inside, the lone stomped her feet angrily in the living room, cursing at her phone before ultimately succumbing to helpless rage. I was shocked. "Bro, when did you install this?" "The night we were kicked out," he said. At that moment, I realized our whole family had already suffered because of her once. And now in this life, we were still being bullied by her. So I decided I had to keep her under close watch to feel at ease. Moreover, I've prepared a little surprise. Isabella, the suffering we endured in our past life, I'll make sure it's returned in full. Now I've developed a new hobby, observing Aloan's family from time to time. After that day, Aloan kept talking in the group chat, accusing me of talking nonsense. I didn't respond anymore. She didn't realize how her increasing words only made her look more suspicious. Aloan's family isn't lacking food or drink now, but their internal conflicts quickly became apparent. The zombie outbreak hasn't been contained. Instead, it's intensifying. The dwindling supplies are only amplifying people's fear during this time. Every time it's mealtime, the lone would scold Juniper for being useless. Unlike our family, where my brother rarely does something that bankrupts us. Yet, somehow going to the countryside made him safer. After berating Juniper, she'd start yelling at her husband, saying he's lazy and gluttonous at home, just wasting food. I originally treated it as a joke until today, when Juniper suddenly said after her mom finished scolding us, "Mom, they live in the countryside, so the car they bought must be parked outside. Did you know there are real-time maps now? Their car is quite luxurious, white in color, and very eye-catching. As long as we know their approximate location, we can definitely find them." I cursed silently in my heart, wondering why this family kept targeting us. Fortunately, we had built a carport back then, and they didn't know our location. But this incident still gave me a strong sense of crisis. If they could think this way, surely others would too. I told my brother about this, and he shared the same concerns as me for our current house. We're actually not afraid of zombies or people. What we fear most is if someone comes with tools, then breaking down our door would just be a matter of time after much thought. The most ironic thing is that if there were zombies around, we might actually be safer. I checked the calendar. It's been 1 week since the zombie outbreak began. According to my memories from the first timeline, the power will go out in another 4 days. Before that happens, we need to set up some small traps in the surrounding area. I started tinkering with my brother's various gadgets, making several solar-powered remote-controlled alarms. We plan to install them nearby to lure zombies around us, forming a zombie barricade. We still need a lightweight tool. Otherwise, relying on human legs alone, we'd never outrun the zombies. Are we supposed to start practicing running today? My brother. That exercise bike you bought downstairs. I modified it into a bicycle. Great job, my bro. You're amazing. Early the next morning, we began our operation. My brother would find taller trees at our predetermined locations to hang the devices, while I observed the terrain and surroundings from the rooftop. Our parents guarded the entrance downstairs. Throughout the entire process, we maintained communication via Bluetooth headsets. Initially, everything went smoothly. My brother successfully hung alarms on 8 sturdy trees in the vicinity. When it came to the last one, a zombie suddenly appeared out of nowhere and ran towards my brother's position. I quickly informed my brother about the situation. Fortunately, he had already found the target tree, set up the alarm, and was now in a high position that was relatively safe. Seeing that it couldn't reach my brother, the zombie started hammering at the tree. Watching the branches shake violently, this zombie had astonishing strength. It wouldn't be long before either my brother would be shaken off or the tree would snap. I took out the crossbow and fired several shots at the zombie, but since I had barely used it before, my aim was terrible. Not only did I fail to hit the zombie, but I was also worried that I might accidentally shoot my brother, which would be disastrous. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead, and suddenly an idea came to me. Brother, when I count to 3, I'll activate the alarm farthest from your position. It might attract a large number of zombies. Once the zombies below leave, you must rush over as fast as you can. Mom and Dad, open the door first, and as soon as brother comes in, close it immediately. Okay, got it, they all replied. 3, 2, 1. A piercing alarm sounded, cutting through the surroundings. Sure enough, I could see the distant bushes starting to shake behind the dense foliage. It was impossible to tell exactly how many zombies there were. But what frightened me even more was that the zombies near my brother didn't seem to be drawn away by the noise. They seemed to trust visual information more than auditory cues. What should we do now? At the very least, I'll distract him from the rooftop to buy some time for my brother. Otherwise, the tree will really break. Suddenly, my parents' shouts came through the headphones. German Shepherd, come back now. Startled, I looked downstairs and saw the German Shepherd had run out. It was sprinting toward my brother at an incredible speed. I never knew it could reach. The zombie spotted the German Shepherd charging towards it and immediately shifted its attention, beginning to chase the dog. Meanwhile, the German Shepherd sprinted wildly in another direction. Seizing this opportunity, the older brother quickly jumped down from the tree, hopped on his bicycle, and rode towards home. German Shepherd, follow me, the brother shouted loudly. The German Shepherd seemed to understand too, quickly turning around and sprinting back home as well. First, my brother returned, and soon the German Shepherd's figure could be seen with zombies closely chasing behind it at such close distance. We had no time to close the door. Hurry, German Shepherd, run faster, I shouted. The German Shepherd was even faster now, and I finally saw both him and the zombies rushing downstairs from above. I couldn't clearly see the situation at the main gate. My heart was pounding wildly as I propped myself up to go downstairs. Just then, Dad's voice came through the headset. Isabella, the German Shepherd is back. The zombies are locked outside. We're safe. I let out a long sigh of relief and collapsed onto the floor. The German Shepherd instantly became our great hero. Holding him, I couldn't help but shed tears. He nuzzled his head against my face in return. I only brought you back by chance. Yet, you actually saved my brother. You must be the guardian angel sent to me by heaven. After this incident, I also realized the potential of German shepherds. The zombies couldn't even outrun a juvenile German shepherd. We must train them well. You're going to play a major role in the future. After setting up traps around the area, the next step was to deal with Aloan and her group. I thought it would take a lot of effort, but my brother just casually mentioned, I changed the password for our front door a couple of days ago. If that family dares to step out, they won't be able to get back in. All right. My brother always silently plays the king bomb without a word, but the reality is even harsher than we imagined. Soon it came to the day of the power outage in the previous life. Before this, the water had already been cut off, but because I was worried about water pollution caused by the zombie outbreak, our family hadn't used tap water since the zombies appeared, relying only on the water we had stored earlier. Moreover, the old station master had previously installed a large water vat in the kitchen. We made some modifications, enlarging the vat and connecting a pipe to the rooftop. If needed later, we could open the pipe to channel rainwater collected from the roof into this vat. So, water cuts aren't a big issue for us. But for most families, just a few days without water is enough to cause massive panic, including for Aloan's household. Chaos has erupted outside. Now everyone realizes that once water and power are cut off, they won't be restored. So after the water was cut, Aloan's family has been actively collecting rainwater. She also plans to go out and scavenge supplies before people start looting, to gain an early advantage. She's actually quite sharp-minded, knowing that many residents on the first and second floors have already fallen victim to the zombies. There should be many empty apartments on those floors now, stocked with plenty of food later. She rallied the able-bodied young adults in the group chat to clear out the zombies together using large furniture to block the building's main entrance and ensure basic safety within the apartment complex. Everyone is on edge now, and they know that self-rescue is the only option at the moment. So many people have responded. I don't know the specific details, but judging from the group discussions, they should have succeeded. Time has come to the present. I know there will be a power outage today, but I've forgotten the exact time. We might not be able to see Aloan's situation later, so our whole family is intently watching there. Status: Aloan's family is discussing with Aloan analyzing the situations of the 6 households on the first and second floors, one by one, which family might have more stored food, which household has spare keys at the door, and which door was already broken to begin with. The family of 3 also took turns assigning which household each would search, shouldering their backpacks and carrying handy weapons. My heart tightened. They were about to leave the house. The door opened with Aloan going out first, followed by Juniper. Just then, something utterly unexpected happened. The Lohan's husband suddenly slammed the door shut with force, then locked it from inside, trembling as he said, "I'm scared. You all go ahead. I'll open the door when you return from searching." Before anyone outside could respond, he added, "Don't make any noise out there, or you might attract the zombies." Outside fell silent. Our family exchanged glances, never expecting Aloan's husband to be so cowardly. Before, I only saw Aloan's cruelty and greed, but in truth, this man hiding behind her is the most despicable one. But this move actually indirectly saved Aloan's family. If they had all gone out, they would never have been able to get back in soon. Whether it had alerted the zombies lingering outside the apartment building or not, the monitor picked up frantic knocking, and Aloan cried out in panic. Ezra opened the door quickly. Aloan's husband, however, just crouched by the door, trembling. Seeing this, her brother said firmly, "He won't open it." "Why?" "Aloan and the others are his family. They went out to find food for the household." I exclaimed in shock. He must be thinking that the supplies at home won't last long for 3 people. But he alone could survive for much longer. Besides, after what happened today, he's bound to be targeted by Aloan and her daughter. Juniper's desperate cries could be heard. "Dad, please open the door. I'm begging you." I couldn't snap out of it for a long time. Is this the ugliest side of human nature? At this moment, I actually felt a slight pity for Aloan and her daughter in my heart deep down. I also hoped that human nature wasn't like this, that Aloan's husband would ultimately open the door. Yet, he actually ran to the sofa, pulled out a blanket, and covered his head as if this would make the pleading outside the door disappear. The group chat was flooded with messages, all urging Ezra to open the door quickly, while zombies were frantically attacking the flimsy defenses. Downstairs, my heart clenched, wanting to know what had happened to Aloan and her daughter. But at this very moment, the power went out. We sat in silence for a long time in the dark living room. I hate the Aloan family, but I despise the darkness of human nature even more. Tossing and turning in bed, I couldn't sleep with the scenes from tonight playing in my mind. Perhaps it was a mother-daughter connection, but Mom unexpectedly came to my room without saying much. She just held me tightly, gently patting my back like she did when I was little, gradually calming down in my mother's embrace. I realized that no matter what, the bond between our family members is the most precious. With this thought, I slowly drifted off to sleep. This incident left me depressed for several days. Eventually, my dad couldn't stand it anymore and told me to spend time with the German Shepherd. He's full of energy right now. If you don't play with him, he'll start destroying the house. I also wanted to shift my focus, so I began teaching him some simple commands. True to its reputation as a highly intelligent breed, the German Shepherd quickly learned many commands. Gradually, I started joining him in physical training exercises. Sometimes I let him run on the treadmill to improve his speed, and sometimes I run myself while he obediently lies beside me watching me exercise when I'm tired. I take out my iPad to watch movies, and surprisingly, he leans against me to watch together. Soon winter arrived, and perhaps due to the anomalies, this year's winter was exceptionally cold. By this time we had completely lost contact with the outside world, but judging by the number of zombies around, the situation hadn't improved. Instead, it had become more severe. Our resources are starting to run low. The generator downstairs has also started working, and fortunately, it allows us to still use cameras to monitor the surroundings. During the hot weather, we used to power a few freezers, but now that it's cold, and the outdoor temperature has already dropped below zero, Dad built a small shed about half a person's height on the rooftop and moved most of the meat outdoors. We only kept one freezer in operation. We no longer use lights during the day, only lighting candles when absolutely necessary. At night, when there's sufficient sunlight during the day, we use solar panels to charge our phones and tablets, but now people hardly use electronic devices anymore. My leisure activities have gradually shifted from staring at my phone to reading books. I've also accumulated many books, ranging from my medical school textbooks to various world novels, philosophy, the Book of Songs, and more. When the weather is nice, I lean by the window to read, disconnecting from the constant stream of outside information. This makes me exceptionally calm, and reading becomes truly enjoyable. Dad inspects the house daily, organizing and inventorying our supplies, and immediately repairs anything amiss. When less busy, he tends to his small rooftop garden. Recently, he actually grew fresh tomatoes and oranges when we tasted fresh fruits and vegetables for the first time in so long. I never realized how delicious they could be. It nearly brought me to tears. My brother is the most versatile in the family. Sometimes he helps Mom cook, other times, he assists Dad with house repairs. He exercises daily, and then tinkers with his various little inventions. At first, he often made useful things, but later, perhaps out of boredom, he suddenly created an electric shock pen. Yes, the kind of prank even elementary school kids now consider outdated. He used it to trick me, and our parents, and in the end, only our gullible dad fell for it. The German Shepherd would exercise with my brother, too. Now, the dog has grown quite large, seemingly with endless energy to burn. Whenever he sees my brother working out, he runs to the treadmill himself. It's now his favorite toy. I can hardly believe this once timid little puppy has become so majestic. One day when it pounced on me like before, I actually got knocked over. But German Shepherds are really smart, maybe realizing this could hurt me. It never did it again. Since then, it just circles around me, nudging my leg with its head, begging for pets. Mom still cooks delicious meals every day. Just like before, she loves experimenting with fun ideas in the kitchen, using limited tools and equipment to make sure we eat well. That day, she actually managed to bake a cake, which instantly caught my interest. I dug out a big pack of tea and coffee that came as a freebie with snacks, found some milk, and made warm milk tea. and latte. Tonight feels unusually cold. Dad and my brother, lured by the aroma, rummaged through the piled-up cardboard boxes, saying they wanted to use the fireplace we'd worked so hard to build. Our family gathered around the fireplace, eating delicious cake and sipping warm coffee and milk tea, when suddenly I felt unafraid of whatever the future might bring. My brother set the mood by announcing he'd tell ghost stories. After just 2 sentences, he scared Dad half to death. I never expected our usually strong-willed and upright father to be so easily frightened. As we chatted, my stomach suddenly growled. This fireplace is so lively. It would be perfect for cooking instant noodles. My brother immediately agreed. I'll take a pack. 2. Mom grumbled a couple of words. You guys just love eating this junk food. Then added, today, I'm going to have a pack. 2. Dad laughed happily. I'll go get it. Let's have a fun meal tonight. I'll even add sausages for you. After taking 2 steps, as if remembering the ghost story, he turned back and called for Big Brother. Come with me, Mom. And I watched as Big Brother reluctantly followed, and we both burst into laughter. Soon, the room was filled with the aroma of instant noodles. They always taste especially delicious when eaten at night. After eating and drinking our fill, we were exhausted and went back to our room to sleep contentedly. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by the German shepherd nudging me, and I immediately realized something was happening around us. The German shepherd is extremely alert and intuitive. It seems to understand that loud noises could attract danger. Whenever it detects anything unusual, it would come over and nudge me in a special way, never barking. Several times when zombies approached our home, it would come to alert us. We would then be extra cautious and activate the surrounding alarms to lure the zombies away. I immediately went to check the surveillance footage, but found nothing unusual. Just as I was about to leave, the German shepherd started rubbing against me again, and I realized this might not be just an ordinary zombie situation. After observing carefully for a long time, I finally noticed a patch of grass swaying rhythmically. I watched for a while before discovering a person crawling on their belly inside. Though moving extremely slowly, they were clearly heading in. Our direction alarm bells rang in my head, and I quickly went to wake the others. After watching the footage for a while, both Dad and my brother confirmed, this person must be seriously injured. Their crawling movements are very awkward. They're barely using their hands, mainly relying on their shoulders and legs. When he was just about 10 meters away from us, figures of zombies began to appear in the distance. Although they hadn't spotted him yet, it was only a matter of time. Even through the blurry video, I could sense his despair in that moment. Without much hesitation, we opened the door, and my father and brother rushed out to bring him back. He was a middle-aged man, now covered in blood, his features unrecognizable. As he entered the house, he gasped in a hoarse voice, "Please help," before immediately passing out. I had my father and brother carry him upstairs to a bedroom. Not daring to let my guard down, I quickly found a sturdy rope and tied his limbs firmly to the bed. From what I remember, after being infected by zombies, the transformation usually takes about 10 minutes. His body was ice cold now. After some thought, I placed a hot water bottle beside him to prevent further heat loss. Looking at this disheveled man, I said, "Hold on a little longer. As long as we confirm you haven't turned, I'll definitely save you." Our family waited outside the room with my brother holding a crossbow. The moment any strange sound came from inside, he would immediately go in and finish him off. After a long 20 minutes, it remained completely silent inside. I sighed in relief. He wasn't infected. My brother stopped me, glanced at his watch, and said, "Wait 10 more minutes." Time passed quickly, and the man was fortunate. He indeed wasn't infected. I examined his condition, and as suspected, both his arms were fractured. He had numerous minor abrasions, none life-threatening. His coma was likely caused primarily by hypothermia and starvation. I helped him with basic cleaning and disinfection. Fortunately, it was a non-open fracture. To ensure my family's health, I had brought along many professional books from my previous studies and had been reviewing them recently. Using my knowledge, I performed bone setting for him and then secured it with wooden planks. I only have theoretical experience. But you won't find a better doctor now. So make do with this. As for whether I said it correctly, that's up to fate now, I added silently in my heart. After dressing his wounds, I covered him with a thin blanket and gave him some sugar water. By this time, dawn was approaching, and I was exhausted. I patted the German shepherd's head and said, "You sleep here. Come find me when he wakes up." The German shepherd ran downstairs to fetch its own mat, then immediately lay down. Feeling reassured, I went back to my room to sleep. When I woke up again, the sun was already high in the sky. That man had also woken up and was now weakly half lying on the bed. Seeing me enter, my elder brother spoke first. "I thought you were too tired, so I didn't let the German shepherd come to call you." The man also looked up at me directly, and only then did I notice how handsome he was with a pair of resolute eyes. "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." I suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. "No need to thank us. It is fate that brought you here, by the way. How did you find this place?" He lowered his head slightly. "Actually, this is my grandfather's house. Both. My brother." And I stood up in shock. "You're the old station master's grandson?" he asked in confusion. "Do you know my grandfather?" I scratched my head. "My brother used to work at your grandfather's gas station." I panicked a little, not knowing how to explain why we had turned this place into a shelter and stored so many things. Fortunately, he didn't ask, but continued when the zombies suddenly broke out. The villa area where I lived was relatively peaceful, probably because of the low population density. But as the weather turned cold, food shortages began to emerge, and staying warm became an issue. Gradually, looting incidents started occurring. The most critical part was that some people nearby formed gangs and began plundering supplies everywhere. These people were utterly ruthless, looting, smashing, burning. They did it all. When I realized they had targeted my area and started taking action, I packed my supplies and fled by car overnight. I immediately thought of my grandfather's place, so I drove straight in this direction. After arriving here, I noticed there were quite a few zombies around. The only way I could break through was by running them over with my car. But in the chaos, I crashed into a tree and passed out. He let out a bitter laugh. Honestly, I don't know how long I was unconscious. It was the faint smell of instant noodles that woke me up. At the time, I wasn't sure if it was just a hallucination before death. But as long as there was a glimmer of hope, I wanted to survive. We were all shocked by his story, and we also knew that while this place might still be a paradise, the outside world had already descended into chaos. My brother patted him on the shoulder. "Focus on recovering from your injuries first. Don't overthink other things for now." "That's right. You need to replenish your energy now. I'll bring the food up for you later." I agreed. Our whole family left the room. As I closed the door, I couldn't help but turn back and saw him staring straight at us, his lips trembling as if he still had something to say. But when our eyes met, he immediately lowered his gaze. Over the next few days, he focused on recovering from his injuries, and we learned more about him. His name was Lennon, and he had previously worked in research at a pharmaceutical company. I could sense a deep restlessness in him. He couldn't even sit still while recuperating, but he never spoke up about it. Then one day, as I was changing his bandages, that anxious look returned to his face. Unable to hold back, I asked, "Is there someone you're really worried about?" He remained silent, but I could sense his anxiety was on the verge of breaking. I tried to console him. "You can tell us. Even if we can't help, talking about it might make you feel better." After I rambled on for a while, he gradually calmed down, as if he had made up his mind about something. He grabbed my arm and said, "Isabella, you can help. Maybe you're the only ones who can." From then on, he told us everything about his past. It turned out that Lennon was originally one of the core researchers at Guangguang Biotech, a world-leading pharmaceutical company. He had been working on neurosensory drugs until the day before the zombie outbreak. He was working overtime at the company when he suddenly received an emergency evacuation order for all staff. He found it strange at the time and called his close friend, also a core researcher, who hesitated on the phone, making him realize the situation wasn't simple. So, he hurried home and urgently stockpiled some food, a move that ultimately allowed him to survive until now. The next day, zombie outbreaks occurred in multiple locations. His intuition told him this was related to their company's emergency evacuation. However, confidentiality between different research projects at their company was extremely strict. So, he had no idea what exactly had triggered this incident. Then, within 2 days, the company suddenly sent his research materials to all team members, instructing them to store the files themselves. At this point, he understood the severity of the situation. The company had always treated confidentiality as paramount, never allowing research materials to be taken home. This move seemed more like risk dispersion. Or perhaps the company had suffered a major attack. Soon he received a large amount of materials sent by his friend, including a video where he appeared pale, haggard, and incoherently sobbing. "I'm infected. I only have 15 minutes left. It's all my fault. I messed everything up. I've let everyone down. Lennon among our group. You're the most talented. You're the only one I can think of. You must save humanity." Within those 15 minutes, he calmed his friend, clarified the crucial information, and received all the materials. From that moment, he finally confirmed that the zombie disaster, which had ruined countless lives, was caused by their company. The whole thing began with the development of a drug designed to enhance human physical strength and constitution. While there were many such supplements on the market, their effects were not significant and required prolonged use for minimal results. What they aimed to create was an enhanced version. There was actually already a mature version. But the company's decision-maker felt it wasn't enough. They wanted something even stronger as a result. Their team hit a prolonged bottleneck. The turning point came when they extracted a certain component from a rare plant that caused rapid increases in strength, speed, and even intelligence in lab mice. This development sparked immense interest among the shareholders. And from then on, their project team gained significant momentum when the drug was introduced to human trials. It immediately showed substantial performance enhancements in subjects. After 3 months, these improvements stabilized, and after 6 months of observation, the effects remained consistent. Delighted, they initially deemed the drug development a success and lifted the quarantine, allowing the first batch of test subjects to re-enter society. But soon, tragedy struck. This entire group mutated, violently attacking humans and triggering large-scale riots in just 15 minutes. There was too little to explain. Lennon had barely grasped the situation when he witnessed his close friend transform into a mindless killing monster. His once brilliant and talented brain gradually hollowed by the virus's erosion. Later, Lennon spent considerable time studying the report just as he understood its principles. Invaders arrived at his location. In the chaos, he gathered all the documents and the last remaining food, deciding to flee to a safe place. The car had over half a tank of gas. After considering all possible destinations, he finally decided to go to his grandfather's house, which is where we are now. "Isabella, all the materials are still in the car. Every extra day they stay outside increases the chance of them being destroyed. I didn't want to drag you into this, but this might be humanity's last hope." My mind was racing with thoughts. For 3 lifetimes, I had always believed the zombie outbreak was a natural disaster, never imagining it could be man-made. You know, when I collapsed in the woods, I had this feeling like I'd been through all this before, that my life would end right there. Lennon's voice choked with emotion. "But you saved me. My feeling was wrong, and there's still hope. After all, I felt a sudden shock throughout my body. I could never understand why it was me, why I kept being reborn again and again. I originally wanted to save more people, but ended up harming a family instead. Given another chance, I just want to safely rescue my family." Somehow, my actions seem to be connected to the fate of all humanity. Perhaps saving Lennon is the mission of my rebirth. Maybe helping Lennon is truly the way I can save humanity. Unconsciously, my heart grew firm once more. "Do you remember roughly where your car was parked?" Yes. Lennon nodded excitedly. "I'll show you soon. With the cooperation between me and my brother, we obtained the materials." Lennon was so shocked by our alarm trap that his jaw dropped. "How did you prepare so thoroughly and come up with so many solutions?" My brother and I exchanged a glance and wordlessly closed our mouths. Lennon didn't know about our reincarnation, And we didn't want to be seen as monsters. We got hold of Lennon's computer. Additionally, anticipating possible power outages, he had printed all the materials beforehand. These documents stood as tall as a person and filled the entire trunk. I was stunned. Have you actually read through all these materials? Lennon scratched his head. Actually, no. I only read the parts relevant to the research. These documents contain the entire project plan, including construction plans, market investment strategies. It would take forever to read everything we looked at. The materials piled up like a small mountain on the ground, then turned our gaze unanimously to Lennon. So, what do we do next? Lennon said confidently. As long as we have a laboratory, we can start developing the serum and vaccine. Our whole family blurted out. Where are we supposed to get a lab now? After much discussion, we all agreed that our only hope now lies with the outside world. Hoping the government has already mobilized some forces. We just need to hold out until rescue arrives. Lennon settled in comfortably with our family and quickly became one of us. During meal times every day, even though both hands are occupied, he's always the fastest at grabbing food. Lennon looks refined and handsome, speaks gently, too. So, my mom absolutely adores him and always prepares special meals for him. My dad and brother both believe that to get rescued, they needed to attract attention. Dad arranged an SOS pattern on the rooftop, while brother started working on the radio, hoping to pick up some signals. Lennon usually spends time studying materials. As a medical student, I've also stepped into the field of biological sciences, and often study alongside him. Whenever I encounter something incomprehensible, the expert is right there, ready to answer my questions. Admittedly, bioscience can be quite dry. I occasionally browse through project materials which cover broader topics and use simpler language. For someone like me who's still studying and only half committed, these materials serve as an easier entry point compared to advanced academic papers, acting as a sort of mental break. Little did I know this casual habit would alter the course of our lives and humanity itself. The turning point came over 2 weeks later. One day, while reviewing project progress, I unexpectedly discovered that Light Creation Bio had previously built a laboratory approximately 200 to 300 kilometers from here, primarily for animal testing and limited human trials. The facility spans 5 floors, 2 basement levels, and 3 above ground with detailed floor plans available. The second basement serves as parking. The ground floor contains reception and administrative offices. Main experimental equipment occupies the first basement and second floor, while the third floor functions as storage. What excites me most is that from this floor plan, I can see the power storage room, which suggests there should be its own power generation equipment. This is quite common. Large laboratories usually have their own power generation equipment to avoid power outages or transmission failures affecting experimental results. Lennon said while flipping through the materials, the most important issue now is to sort out the experimental equipment and stored materials inside. If these things are useless, our trip would be in vain. Soon we found the procurement list of equipment and drugs. Lennon quickly scanned it and said excitedly, "The items here are basically complete. I believe we have sufficient conditions to begin serum research." It didn't take me much time to decide to go to the laboratory with Lennon from the moment we retrieved the materials. This path was one I had to take before our parents could say anything. My brother firmly objected. "Lennon, and I will go, not you," he said angrily. "I'm a man. I can be of more help there." I shook my head. "Brother, I studied medicine. I understand basic biology. I'm the most suitable to be Lennon's assistant." My brother was about to say more, but I stopped him and said resolutely, "Brother, I've lived twice. This time I can feel it. This is my purpose. Even if I fail, even if I lose my life for it, I won't regret it." I smiled slightly. "Brother, I want you here. I need you here to take care of our parents to live long until we develop the serum." My brother fell silent, and I knew he had agreed. What followed was a flurry of intense preparations. First came basic living necessities, the instant food products, instant noodles, self-heating hot pots, and canned goods we bought earlier were all put to use. Mom preserved large quantities of meat and other items, which might become our only food supply going forward. We couldn't guarantee maintaining our current standard of living afterward. So, all the outdoor gear we'd previously purchased was put into service. Sleeping bags, water purifiers, alcohol stoves, fuel. Most importantly, all our materials, computers, a small generator, diesel, etc. The entire vehicle was packed full to fit more items. My brother and father even removed the back seats. My brother carefully mapped out the route, marking gas stations and potential supply points along the way. After 2 days of preparation, the time to depart has finally arrived. Before boarding, my brother and parents hug me tightly. If things don't go well there, come back immediately. We don't need you to save the world. We just want you to be safe. Understand? Mom said with a sob. My brother patted Lennon on the shoulder. Protect my little sister. Lennon nodded solemnly. I will, Lennon. And I embarked on our journey. The 200 kilometers distance actually took just over 3 hours. But the main concern was not knowing what might happen along the way or what the outside world was like now. The biggest threats on the road were still zombies with occasional sightings of 1 or 2 vehicles, though everyone tacitly avoided disturbing each other following the points marked by my brother. We found gas stations and roadside supermarkets, but the stores were either already emptied with zombies lurking inside or heavily guarded, and completely inaccessible. We passed 7 or 8 gas stations, all of which were in complete disarray. We didn't risk getting out of the car until the last station, which, being quite remote, appeared to be in much better condition. After confirming it was safe, we got out to refuel. Although we're not short on supplies now, it's always good to stock up when possible. Soon, we arrived at the research institute. Fortunately, its security system was intact, and there seemed to be no zombies inside. We tried to park the car on the basement level, too, but found it already swarming with zombies. We couldn't even get close to the entrance, and ended up attracting their attention. They nearly caught up and latched onto our car. The institute's main gate is extremely sturdy, with no way to enter from the outside. We all speculated it must be controlled by a central system, and can only be opened from the inside. Left with no choice, we circled around the institute several times, and eventually discovered an inconspicuous side door secured by a coded lock. I'll go in first to check the situation. You wait at the main gate, and once I open it, drive the car inside. If I haven't opened the gate within 30 minutes, just drive back and find the others. Without waiting for me to stop him, Lennon jumped out of the car and ran towards the small gate, watching his retreating figure. I had no choice but to drive the car to the main gate. First, I waited anxiously in my seat, but fortunately, the main gate soon opened. I've checked inside. Everything's fine. The equipment and other items are all well preserved, Lennon said as he ran upstairs, wiping sweat from his brow. Seeing his expression, I felt conflicted. Lennon, you don't need to take such risks if there's a zombie inside. I didn't continue. He replied nonchalantly. I promised your brother I'd protect you well, and I also want you to live safely. We inventoried the Research Institute's equipment and decided to use the basement level as our main experimental area. The primary power generators and lab equipment were all in the basement, too heavy for just the 2 of us to move. Moreover, the basement's layout was complex with dense surveillance coverage, which would buy us more time to react if intruders ever broke in. That night, Lennon and I curled up in sleeping bags, exhausted from the day's work. Neither of us felt sleepy. Do you think the experiment can continue with just the 2 of us? When this project started, there was a team of over 100 people. Have you heard of a theory that in any team 1/3 of the people do the work, 1/3 don't do anything, and 1/3 hinder others from working? Lennon turned his head, and even in the darkness, I could see his sparkling eyes. In a team of over 100, there were people handling marketing, planning, but the real core Randy team was only about a dozen. Although we're not even 1/3 of that now. Without those who hinder others, it's already enough. I couldn't help but laugh at this. You're really optimistic. Now I'm starting to believe we can do it, too. The life of research is extremely monotonous, and our lives have become very busy. Lennon conducts experiments, takes notes, and analyzes data every day. I strive to be a useful assistant, cultivating bacterial strains, monitoring the environment, washing beers, and test tubes for him, and so on. To our pleasant surprise, this lab is also well stocked with supplies, ensuring basic living conditions, so we no longer have to live on canned food every day. After about 6 months, the first testable version of the serum was developed. We conducted experiments on lab mice, but the results were poor. The mice quickly mutated after being attacked by zombies. At this point, we were utterly disheartened. Having a prototype in just 6 months was already remarkably fast. As many vaccines take years to develop, yet time was running out, and the lab stockpile of supplies was limited. I even had the urge to go back to my parents and brother, but as soon as I got into the car, I calmed down. What would going back accomplish? Our stored food would last at most 2 or 3 years. What then? Starve to death in despair again. Spend the remaining time trapped in that house, waiting hopelessly. With that thought, I wiped away my tears and opened the car door again. Lennon was standing outside, waiting silently. When he saw me, he rushed over and hugged me. His frustration was no less than mine. The pressure he bore far exceeded what I endured, and carrying the mission to save the world was no easy task. We hugged each other and cried our hearts out, feeling much better afterward, and regained our spirits. Over the next 3 months, we developed a new version, and this time the experiments on animals succeeded, just as we were considering how to mass produce and conduct further tests. Luck finally smiled upon us. That morning we heard the sound of a helicopter circling overhead. We rushed to the rooftop and immediately spotted my brother sitting up there. I excitedly waved at him, and after coming down, he gave us both a big hug. After you left, we kept placing SOS signals on the rooftop. Finally, yesterday, we were discovered by the government's rescue team. A burly soldier descended from the helicopter and saluted us. "Day Lennon, it's a tremendous surprise to hear you're still alive." We all shook hands with him. We've now established a sizable base with ample experimental equipment and materials. We hope you'll join us, Lennon. And I exchanged a smile. Dawn had finally arrived,